welcome to a very, very late DCU Daily. Apologies for that. We had a lot to get through, so we are doing it a little bit late. We have only 9 minutes left of the actual Monday for people on the East Coast, but hey, other time zones can still claim that this is the Monday show. So that's okay. But welcome back to the show. I hope you guys have had a wonderful weekend, because with a weekend is box office. Also, happy MLK Day. With this, we have a bunch to talk about. Looks like my prediction was wrong. Never bet against James Cameron, because Fire and Ash has scorched the Bone Temple in terms of who is number one at the box office. So we're going to be getting into that, as well as a couple other record-breaking movies for Zootopia 2, for Marty Supreme, for a couple others, but those are the biggest ones. Then, of course, we get into MCU weekly stuff. Got some Avengers Doomsday, got some actors talking about their characters. Chris Pratt's talking about what Star-Lord's been up to. Mike Coulter talking about Luke Cage. Got people being announced for projects still. Tatiana Maslany allegedly has let her thoughts know on if she is returning to the MCU, as well as a couple other TV projects. And we are also bringing back, it's been a very, very long time, we are bringing back Mount Rushmore Monday. So we're going to be talking about the Mount Rushmore of superhero films. So we are going to be getting into that. And then, of course, our quick hits, tons of quick hits. Hopefully the quick hits are quick this time around. And then tons of stuff for DC Daily. After a couple dry spells in regards to, DCU Daily a little bit, we have our DC quick hits, yes. But with what did Gunn say? Oh my God, we have updates on Batman, on Man of Tomorrow, the female character in Man of Tomorrow, what the upcoming slate is going to be. We've got dynamic duo news. We got Clayface news. We got tons of other updates. We got debunking. We got dunking. We got gunning. We got all the damn things to talk about. And now, before this little pre-show, or before we get into the news gets too long, let's properly start the show and truly get into it with this very, very Knuff intro.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see corn.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the needs now?
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow! Wow!
Here we go. DCU Daily time. Let's go. We are here to talk about so many wonderful things. I am, of course, your host, as always, John. Well, not always, but one of the hosts. In terms of the main host, is me. But in terms of co-host, we got Dan here. I'm not alone. Don't worry. We are not alone today. Dan, how are you doing? How was your weekend? How has your MLK Day been? Just curious.
Well, no, it was busy. I mean, a little low key at times, but then I've been sort of over the weekend doing a lot of rabbit hole diving on Avengers Doomsday theories, and I don't know why. I guess maybe I had a little too much time on my hands, and probably not the best thing for the sake of my health, because people have theories, and you know what? I blame the Russos for putting us up to this. So yeah, I don't know how much of it is true or not, but I mean, hey, we got the folks in the chat. Right Dude is here. Hello, Right Dude. Thank you for joining in live. I know you're not always to join in live, but that's all right. Honka Honka Caleb. Happy MLK Day to everybody, of course. Get funky with it. I read that all weird. Get funky with it, guys. Thank you, Emanord Girl. We will get funky with it. Of course, I mentioned Right Dude is here. Happy MLK Day again. Patrick, hello, Patrick. Happy MLK Day. Dan will return and do. You know what? At this point, and yes,
Who is
we
it
meet
returning
again.
in Doomsday? Jesus
We
Christ.
meet again, Ron.
The second coming
Hello,
of
Ron.
Christ will return in Avengers Doomsday.
Somehow Jesus returned. It's like, oh shit, that means literally Doomsday is coming.
Jesus is just gonna come down and just be like, fuck cape shit, and then just leave, and then that's it.
Yeah, that would be a little too on the nose for a Marvel movie if they did have Jesus return in a movie that's called Doomsday. So anywho, no, it's gonna be a fun. We got a lot to get into, John. We have a lot to get into. I had the TV on behind me, and I realized that it's showing up here. Hello,
it's
Ron.
blurry enough. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Did you see Gru and Kermit the Frog are returning in Doomsday?
Here is returning in Avengers Doomsday.
I'm sure he is. I am sure he is, as is literally everybody else. But hey, you know what? We'll get into it. We'll talk about it. But John, did you have a fun weekend? Like a long weekend? I mean, technically, this is still part of the holiday weekend.
I slept for most of it.
All right.
Because my sleep schedule is terrible. But
yeah. I hear you. Such as is how things go sometimes. But hey, we have to start off the show on a slightly somber note. And this is just something I saw come in over the weekend. John, we all love The Lion King, and I'm talking about the original Lion King from, I think it was 1996, if I remember correctly. I forget the exact year, but everybody knows The Lion King. It's my personal greatest animated movie of all time. And I think for a lot of people, they might say the same thing. I mean, also I grew up with the film, and I've did all the research inside and out, like from the makings of the movie and everything. The voices, and that was my first introduction to Jeremy Irons, and obviously, I'm forgetting the name of Mufasa. Why am I forgetting the name of the
James
actor?
Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones. Sorry, I was like Darth Vader. James Earl Jones. Sorry, weird blank moment. Everybody in that movie, it's like iconic, and obviously when they made the live action remake, it broke all kinds of records. Well, it's a sad day to hear that Roger Allers, who directed The Lion King, passed away over the weekend at the age of 76. And John, it was a sad thing to see. Like, I saw this and I was like, oh man, it's not one of those things where, he's one of the greatest directors of all time, or I've seen a ton of his work, but I like The Lion King is one of my core memory movies, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, like Patrick saying in the chat, Right Dude saying the same, Caleb saying it's objectively one of the greatest animated movies ever made. Yeah. And you know what? We're not here to talk about which is better or not. We're here to talk about Roger Allers' legacy. Yeah. John, of course, I relate to him mostly because of my love for The Lion King, which he directed. And as a director, you get to have the greatest level of influence on a movie. So because I love, The Lion King, I remember Roger Allers, and I will always forever remember the contribution that he made to my love of the movies. What about you? How do you choose to remember Roger Allers and the legacy he left behind?
Well, I mean, he did do a lot of great work outside of his directorial efforts. He did work on just some of the things he worked on for Disney: Tron, Oliver and Company, Little Mermaid, Rescuers Down Under, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Emperor's New Groove, Lilo and Stitch, as well as a couple of the direct-to-video Disney films like Lion King 1.5 and Return to Neverland. But he has worked on a lot of stuff, from an animator to a storyboard artist to writing the story to head of story. He's done a lot of great things for Disney, and even outside of Disney, he's worked on a lot of documentaries, been in a lot of documentaries, I should say. So, it's, even though this was probably his biggest project, co-directing the film along with Rob Minkoff, It's the rest of his filmography, even though they were not as big directorial efforts as this, it's still important to talk about everything he's done rather than just one film. But the last thing he was ever noted for was the remake of The Lion King, which was a special thanks. But you know, it's it's still sad, and it what he did for this film, as well as many other Disney films, will not go unnoticed. And he, even just for one film, he will remain a legend. So he's looking down upon us from the clouds, saying, "I trust in you, son. Go on." I don't know. I tried to do a Lion King thing. It didn't work. It's fine. It's just
It's
he's pretty goated,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
you know
No, like you said, I mean, it goes well beyond The Lion King. That's my touchstone. But I mean, like you mentioned, Tron as well, and a number of other classics, and not just a Disney legend, but just one of those legends of the business, of Hollywood as a whole. Um, I hope we get to see his name, amongst the in memoriam segment at the Oscars and stuff, and so that he gets his, due, because while we, remember the big, like we've had so many big names pass over the past 12 months time,
it
but
feels
and
like so
yeah,
many sacrificial lambs to keep Dick Van Dyke alive. That's just like my headcanon at this point. That's a little morbid, but like
it's a
it's
little
just so
morbid, yeah.
interesting because like Betty White couldn't get to 100, Dick Van Dyke did, and then now there's this slew of people who have passed away. I'm like, the timing is just a little strange, where it's like, okay, we finally,
Oh,
okay, Dick Van Dyke lived to 100. Congratulations. He can't play with Legos anymore, but he got there, and congrats to him for living a long life. But then I just feel like every other day at this point, people are like dropping like flies. Him and Keith Richards are gonna fucking, it's gonna be, they both experience the quickening. Um, but
but
it's still sad
yeah,
to see, and like just
yeah,
so
Roger
many
Allers, yeah,
great people have left us, and it's just like it's a little nerve-wracking because we are, again, sorry for the morbidness of it all, but we are reaching that point where a lot of like veterans are reaching that point. This is
yeah,
just the beginning of it, folks. We're gonna see a lot more legends pass away. I mean, I feel like Ozzy was kind of the start of it, where it's like that, and
mm,
then a lot of people kind of followed, which is a little sad. But it's not going to be the end of it. We're going to be seeing a lot of veterans pass away of the industry, and of many industries, and just gotta stay prepared. But remember, life is short. Try to make the best of it as you can, even though they've lived long. Most of them have lived long lives. 76, pretty good age. Lived a pretty damn good life. Made his mark on the world. So just
yeah,
try to make your mark on the world. Ever so slightly. I'm not saying go out and make one of the greatest animated movies of all time. I'm just saying, just
yeah,
be the best thing in someone's life or in your own, and try to, build upon that. So,
yeah.
people remember
No,
you, hopefully.
absolutely. Yeah, and well, Roger Allers, like, again, left a great legacy behind, and we wish his family and friends the very best in this time of mourning. And yeah, we'll remember him. We'll remember him and his work. And thank you for that advice, John, because it is, yeah, it's something to keep in mind. Provides perspective. But yeah, let's move on. By the way, we should probably do like a Mount Rushmore Monday segment where we do the greatest, like the animated movies, Mount
That's
Rushmore.
I
Can you imagine?
honestly, I
You
don't know
gotta
if I could
narrow
do
it
a
down
Mount
to
Rushmore. That's
four.
got to be like a tier list in and of itself, because whoa
Um,
boy. Honestly,
but
you
like a
know what we
tier list,
should
like
do?
it's
You
yeah.
know what we should do? Like, maybe this will be the
Hey,
start of it.
Moni.
You know how we did MCU phases, like phase 1, phase 2,
Hmm.
phase 3? We should do like Disney, but like by like ages, like the golden age of
Yeah.
Disney, the silver
Hmm.
age of Disney, the bronze age of Disney, the modern age of Disney. That would, I think, be really a lot of fun, because I've seen pretty much every single one. Um, so I think that could be a lot of fun to do. Let us know, guys, if you want to see a
Let
tier
us
list
know.
Tuesday of us doing every Disney animated movie.
Dude, it's like people forget because it's Yeah, like what's the one? Is it Snow White? It's like one of what it was much more recent than a lot of the other ones. It's just yeah, there's many eras of Disney animated movies. I mean, Toy Story, another one, Emo Nerd Girl. Toy Story kind of changed the way
Yeah.
animated feature filmmaking was done. I mean, if you did a Mount Rushmore for me, I can probably give away the fact that it would have to be The Lion King for me because that's my personal favorite, one of the greatest. You would have to put in Toy Story.
Well, I mean,
What's the
Toy
very
Story's
first
Pixar.
Disney
That would be a
one?
whole separate thing. We could do a
That'd be
Pixar one even.
Pixar. What's the
So
very first Disney one? Why am I forgetting? Is it
it's Snow White. You were right. It was
Snow White? Snow White,
Snow
yeah.
White and the Seven
So you got
Dwarfs.
Snow White. I would put Snow White in mine. I would put Spider-Man into the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, the first of the three trilogy. I would put in Toy Story, and then I would put in The Lion King in terms of like the four more. Maybe I could take out The Lion King for Shrek, but it's kind of like when you have the Toy Story in there, Shrek was sort of like counter to anyway. That's a whole another conversation
That's
before
a
we get too
whole
sidetracked.
separate conversation. We
Hello,
still
D. Ross.
have
Blessed from the
more
start.
Disney stuff to talk about, all the
Yeah.
retroactive Disney stuff because it was originally not Disney stuff. It was originally Fox.
It was
'Cause now we're
Fox.
going to be talking about box office stuff in regard to Avatar: Fire and Ash. And as I said in the beginning, never bet against James Cameron. I thought, oh, people were finally done with Avatar. It's going to be the least grossing out of the three. People are getting tired of it. People are getting done with it. Nope. None of that shit. None of that. It's Fire and Ash still. I mean, it didn't totally scorch it, but like it was still like enough to be like, all right, sit down, Nia DaCosta. You have no power here, which is a shame because Bone Temple is a way better movie. But no, as I said, never bet against James Cameron. Stupid of me. How dare I? Here we are, still talking about Fire and Ash like it means something. So it is topping the MLK weekend at $17 million with Marty Supreme, A24's biggest movie at domestic.
Yeah.
Blame
with the
Chinia?
great. I think he means to say China, like the thing. Anyway, China. Okay. Well, Fire and Ash, and we went into the weekend talking about 28 years later, the Bone Temple, and Avatar: Fire and Ash were going to be fighting for the top spot, and both were looking at somewhere between 15 to 20 million. I think they were expecting both of them to do around 20 million, possibly even more. But yeah, I mean, look, we're not technically done with the MLK weekend because we don't have the
Right.
Monday numbers yet. But 28 years later, by good margin, fell behind Fire and Ash. I think if you scroll down, we have they give us more relatively exact numbers. Avatar: Fire and Ash is expected to finish with 17.2 million, while The Bone Temple is coming in closer to 15 million. And that number will change once the actuals come out. So we'll update you guys tomorrow on Tuesday's DCU daily episode. But yeah, John, it's not surprising that those are the top two. What is surprising is, of course, everybody expected that Avatar: Fire and Ash would not make it to its fifth weekend at the top of the box office. The previous two Avatar movies stayed number one for 7 weeks in a row, and now, despite the odds being not in its favor, 28 years later, 28 years later has come in and sort of underperformed. The question I want to ask you, because like just going beyond just the top, and then we'll talk about the international box office in a second, but Avatar: Fire and Ash now has to make it 2 weeks more at top of the box office. And here's the biggest releases for the next couple of weeks. You got Mercy, which is the Chris Pratt, Rebecca Ferguson, Amazon MGM movie. It's like a sci-fi movie, Mercy. That's coming out this week. That's the big one this week. There's a few others, but like that's the big one. And then the following week, there's like Send Help. Is Jason Statham gonna do the job? Because his movie Shelter, where he's living on a Scottish island in the Highlands.
I got shelter. I'm gonna be on an island. I'm
So-
Jason
so-
Statham.
Between Mercy, which is a Chris Pratt movie, and the Jason Statham Shelter, those are the two movies that Avatar: Fire and Ash now has to beat to stay on top 7 weekends in a row. Do you think it will get a chance to do that, or is one of those movies going to take it down? Because like it's not like it beat
No.
the Bone Temple by much, you know.
I mean, it's entirely possible that it's just Send Help has gotten some good marketing. People love Jason Statham. It's entirely possible that one of those I mean, unless like the Tism folks come in clutch with Iron Lung, because there's a lot of Markiplier fans out there, and those tickets have been selling like hotcakes. They have been those pre-sales have been huge for a movie, especially without a distributor. So I'm curious with how that's gonna do. I can't imagine it'll do as like much as some of these other big tentpole movies, but I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, oh yeah, Bone Temple is 100% going to beat Fire and Ash, and then James Cameron coming in making me look like a dingus by slapping me with his big fat fucking blue cock, being like, "You bet against me, motherfucker. Really? You're gonna go against me? I have not made $1 billion movie in the 21st century. So are you really gonna bet against me?" So I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to say it. Like I'm afraid to say any one of these other movies is gonna be Fire and Ash. So
It's
I don't know.
I haven't looked at the long-term tracking, but if Fire and Ash can
I
make
am.
15 to 20
I am.
million for 2 more weeks in a row, then yeah, I don't see Mercy and what's the other one? Shelter opening any higher. 28 years later was probably the best bet to dethrone Avatar. But John, let's talk about the international box office too, because the numbers there are still, pretty impressive. Avatar again continues to gain momentum. It was sitting at around 1.23 billion last weekend. Now it's at 1.3 billion. So you can see that the momentum is slowing down. Like this movie's probably, I don't know if it's going to beat Zootopia 2's box office at this point, which we'll talk more about in a minute. But The Housemaid, we talked about it on Friday. It's now become Paul Feig's second highest grossing movie of all time. And it was, it crossed 200 million last on Friday. It's just now chugging along from there. The Bone Temple opened to only around 31 million, which is, worldwide. I mean, obviously about half of that comes from domestic, and then internationally, the rest adds up to 31 million. Are you disappointed that 28 years later, Bone Temple, which by the way, if you guys want to watch John's review, it's on the channel on Friday's show. I'll see if I can put up the video by itself. But John, are you disappointed at that number, 31 million worldwide? Do you feel like that's now going to be a flop ultimately for 28 years later? Because I don't know what the breaking point for this movie is, but that feels low compared to even, 28 years later that came out last year, whereas the Bone Temple
I
was
mean,
starting out.
personally, I think it might now be like more of a sleeper hit because I can see the longevity of that because it is part of a pretty known franchise. But as Emo Nerd Girl said, Avatar is a little bit broader. It's PG-13. Bone Temples R. So, it's definitely, I think 28 years later will kind of recoup in the background now that I see what this has become. Because I feel like a lot of R-rated movies do that. They kind of recoup in the background, like because I feel like it's known. I've seen a lot of ads for like pretty much almost any horror movie I saw last year. There was a trailer for 28 years later, the Bone Temple. So after the first 20 years later, that is. So I think for me, I see it being a sleeper hit.
Yeah.
Now in regards to what the budget is, because I'm curious in regards to that.
I just want to, but while you look that up for reference, 28 years later last year, the previous movie in this franchise, it released in June in the summer months, so that's maybe part of the reason why, but it actually opened up to roughly twice as much at the box office. Domestically, it made 30, and then worldwide 60 million, which is almost exactly twice as much as what the Bone Temple has started off to, roughly 15 odd million domestic and 31 worldwide. So yeah, but like again, one coming out in January, the other in June. Those are two very different times of the year in terms of the who's going to the
Now,
movies at that time.
however, for the worldwide debut, it made about half of its budget already. Like that's nothing to sneeze at. Like I think that's a pretty good number. So I think if it stays in theaters for at least a month, it's probably
Right.
going to recoup that. I don't know if it'll make much of a profit, but I mean, the third film is already greenlit because I know a lot of people were like going crazy, like, "Oh my god, the third film, it's not going to be made now." It's like it's been greenlit. Sony has faith in it, And so they're gonna be,
Yeah.
having that movie. Like, they have Cillian Murphy coming back, spoiler alert. They have, Danny Boyle is now coming back after taking a break with Bone Temple. So I think there is a lot going for it. And I think Sony, like, even though they don't see it as the most profitable thing ever, they view enough of it that'll be like, okay. And remember, the box office for the first one was about 150 million, and I don't think it made that overnight. So I'm willing
Well,
to
it
bet that
made
it'll
most
make
of
a.
it opening weekend as well, like 60 million opening weekend worldwide.
So it's
Yeah.
entirely possible that, like, maybe releasing it in January was not the best idea, because we were like, oh, it'll release in January, it'll make more money because not a lot of shit coming out. When it's like, okay, maybe
But
that's
there's
not
fewer
the case.
people going to the theaters as well. So I think that's always the calculus the studios have to do. And they've got the research, they've got the people working this out who get paid to do this, So hopefully
So
Sony
I
knows
can
what they're doing.
imagine, if I were to
yeah.
take a guess, in terms of the box office,
Mhm.
if that made 150 and this made, like, 60 million in its opening weekend, I could see this maybe making like 90 million, maybe not as much. But recouping the budget and making a little bit of profit, maybe like 80 to 90 million.
Yeah.
That's my theory. John's theory time. That's
That's
gonna be.
if it gets to like 90 or close to 100, that's gonna be the break even point. So it's gonna at least break even and earn the money back that they put into it, because the marketing campaign also wasn't that huge. But like you said, even if this movie doesn't have the biggest amount of success at the box office, they've got the next one coming. This was meant to be a bit of a spin-off anyway, in terms of like the mainline movies, if you as it were. So we'll see. Unless this is like meant to be the 28 years later trilogy in and of itself. So
Yeah,
like to sit
that's what
within
it's
the
meant to be. It's
franchise.
meant to be the
Yeah.
28 years later trilogy. They
Yeah.
tried to do 28 months later, but that never happened. So
yeah.
they just skipped it and went
Just skip, yeah.
immediately into 28 years later.
It makes sense
Um,
considering that you bring in the actors back. Like you'd have to de-age them a little. I don't know how that anyway. But we have a few other things to talk about with the box office. I want to do this like more quick style. I'll kind of go over them, get your reaction, then we'll move on. So let's kind of walk through some of these other topics. So Zootopia 2, of course, has passed Inside Out 2 now as Hollywood's highest grossing animated film of all time, with
plus the real
$1.7
highest
billion.
grossing animated film, because I don't believe Neja 2 is the highest grossing of all time. But
Well, exactly. So, I mean, depending on whether you count Neja 2 or not, obviously, like Variety is here saying Hollywood's highest grossing animated film of all time. Of course, both of them are Disney movies. They're both sequels. So Zootopia 2 now with 1.7 billion. I mean, if you don't count Ninja 2, that makes it the highest grossing animated movie of all time, beating Inside Out 2 as well. So your thoughts on that, John? Like, did you see this coming a few months ago? Oh, I think you're muted. Oh, I think you're muted, John. Nope. You're still muted.
So for me, I was like, honestly, yeah, I definitely, when it
I'd
beat
be
that
cool.
record in 17 days, I could see, like, yeah, I could definitely see. I'm like, all right, we'll see. And I could, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I think it'll meet it, at the very least meet it. But like, I'm like, I could see
Yeah.
this surpassing it. So
Yeah.
yeah, this
Well,
is
It's
this
felt
is
like an
good.
inevitability after a
Yeah.
while. But yeah, let's keep on going. We got a couple other now. I think the next one is, speaking of China, as Ron was saying earlier, the Chinese box office. Zootopia 2. Of course, Zootopia 2 didn't become the
Because he has to be gross, Caleb, because that's what he has to do.
I can't put that super chat on screen, just some geeky guy. I'm sorry, but it's a funny super chat anyway. Look, Zootopia 2 just became Hollywood's highest grossing animated movie of all time,
Yes.
and in short part, because look, with China's box office contributing almost a third of that, like literally, I mean, I think at this point it has. If not, it's either getting really close to, or it already has beaten the Avengers Endgame record in China, which is something nobody ever thought was going to happen, considering how other Hollywood movies have been doing there recently. But the market there, the movie market, is cooling ahead of the Lunar New Year. They're usually around that time they release more local Chinese blockbusters. But as far as Hollywood movies go, John, Zootopia 2 just keep chugging along, and it's still leading the way, despite the fact that they've had a couple other local Chinese movies come out since it's been in theaters. And even Avatar couldn't dethrone it for more than a couple of weeks. How impressive is that for you? And then again, how big of a part? Because again, I can't believe that it actually is beating Avengers Endgame's record in China. Like, it's kind of insane. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. But that's not the only, box office milestone that has been made. Is Marty Supreme has become now A24's highest grossing film at the domestic box office with 80 million. It's still on track to make, I think, 100 million. That was like the goal. That was like kind of like where it seemed to be going. Obviously we'll have to wait and see, but it's so funny to be like, I've never fucking heard of this movie. What is even this? What is the blah, 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 blah? And then meanwhile it's breaking records. So it's like, clearly enough people are seeing the damn movie for it to fucking break records like this. So
I mean, not only is it now the highest grossing film for A24 domestically with over 80 million, but it's also crossed 100 million worldwide. Now, obviously, that means the majority of that number comes from the domestic number, so there's that. But hey, Marty Supreme is gaining momentum in the award season, and Timothée Chalamet has been doing Q&A sessions and whatnot, so not surprised to see that it continues to chug along. It's still got a ways to go to beat, I think, Everything Everywhere All at Once and Civil War as like the two highest grossing worldwide movies for A24, but at this rate, I think it's only a matter of time. By the way, I did want to mention Zootopia 2 has crossed 610 million in China, which beats Avengers Endgame's record of 608 and some change. So there you go. There's that. Did I hear that we're getting Night of the Museum 5? I did not hear that, D. Cole. When did we ever get Night of the Museum 4? They made like a TV show. We'll look into that for next time. But John, I believe we had one more. We had one more piece of news regarding box office from the Middle Earth Kingdom, and
anyway, I tried.
Oh, you did. I think you did a pretty good job there. We talked about it on Friday because they had a 3-day Fathom event happening over the weekend, and even on Friday when they were meant to play the first of the trilogy, and then you could go see Return of the King, the Return of the King, and then I'm forgetting what's the third movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's late at night.
It's literally on the screen, Dan.
Return of the King. Yeah. Anyway, the point is, you had all three of the original trilogy playing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it was a Fathom Events, a special screening. And we talked about it on Friday. They'd already sold $5 million in tickets in pre-sales alone. Now with the 25th anniversary event complete, the final tally is in, John, and they made $11 million in the worldwide box office for the entirety of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And you mentioned on Friday, they weren't just playing the theatrical cuts, the original they were playing the extended editions. So, and they actually had special fan intros, which was kind of cool. And Peter Jackson, I think, was involved in that. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's 3 movies, but $11 million is not chum's change. John, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's pretty damn good. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah, indeed. Well, we're going to be getting a lot more Gollum in the not too distant future. So
yeah, will it be good? Probably not. But it's
come on, trust in Andy Serkis.
I don't. Have you seen the trailer for Animal Farm? That looks like dog shit, or pig shit, I should say.
Yikes. Okay. All right. Well, I think it's time for us to talk a little bit of Marvel. So let's get into our MCU Weekly part of the show. A lot of little bits of news, some quick hit style MCU news. So we'll dive into it. Of course, Avengers Endgame was the biggest Marvel movie in the history of the MCU, in the history of Marvel when it came out. Then, the MCU is sort of tumbled downhill and it's struggling to get back on its feet. Now, Avengers Doomsday is on its way. It's less than 12 months away. It's less than a year away at this point. In fact, from, I want to say, Sunday, it was basically 11 months from Sunday. So with that in mind, people have been wondering, in addition to everybody that we saw on those director's chairs last year, who else maybe coming back for Avengers Doomsday, John. And it looks like Chris Pratt just addressed whether he will come back or not in Doomsday. And he was saying, he was kind of being coy, like, maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't. He's been promoting his movie Mercy, and he was asked about, well, what do you think Star-Lord's been up to between the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy and I guess he's, whenever he next shows up in the MCU. And well, Chris Pratt basically said, look, in regards to my return, we made a promise at the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy that Star-Lord would return, so I think we'd like to make good on that promise. And then, he just sort of mentioned that, hey, look, almost like it's you could just tell like how Chris Pratt would be a perfect booster gold in the DCU, because he just, like, when he's asked about, like, so what has Star-Lord been up to? He's like, he's probably just trying to deny the fact that he's responsible for the death of Iron Man, because he's like, that's a great plan, except it's a terrible plan. Now let's listen to my great plan. And this is, I'm like, okay, especially because
serve. What am I supposed to say in that? Jesus Christ.
Jesus, yeah, you're from Earth, yeah, from Missouri. Did he say Missouri? Is it Missouri or Kansas? I forget which one he said. Kansas is Superman. Missouri is where James Gunn's
from. And guys, hot
So-
new topic. Apparently, your mom will return in Avengers Doomsday.
I am sure somehow Mom returned. But anyway, yeah, Andy Serkis also directed Venom. Let There Be Carnage. No, they should not cross over those two franchises. Not unless it's like an SNL sketch, which we'll get into during Quick Hits.
We will get into that.
We will get into that. J.K. Rowling's must be really happy these days. But anyway, John, so yeah, Star-Lord probably thinking about how he ultimately ended up causing the death of Iron Man and a bunch of other stuff. But then also he's got to be catching up on all that music, right? He's and at the same time, kind of like Booster Gold, like he apparently Chris Pratt imagines Star-Lord is trying to convince people that he's actually used to be a superhero at one time. Like I can imagine, like, we find Star-Lord at some point, when they go to fetch him for Avengers Doomsday, when they're putting the new Avengers together or something, and he's just like telling a story to some girl at a bar, and then I was like, dance off, bro. And then the guy was just like stared me down, and then, like, we got the stone, and then we all held hands together, and it was like purple mist everywhere, and then Groot, there was this like big living tree that's when we are Groot, and we were like all crying, and then he died, but then we planted the twig, and then a new Groot grew out of it. A new talk is this. I can imagine Chris Pratt Star-Lord like doing that in a drunken like bar conversation, trying to flirt with a girl. So. Your thoughts on this? Like, do you think Chris Pratt is coming back in Doomsday?
Maybe. I think Secret Wars is more likely.
Okay. I just want to see that scene. Now I have convinced myself that that's how I want to see Star-Lord.
You're setting
just,
the expectations too high, Daniel. Come on.
So I was a superhero. I had a dance off with a tyrant, fought my godlike dad, and then you got rescued by Mary Poppins. Because then Yondu was like, he was your father. He may have been your father, but he sure ain't your daddy. Like, oh, tears everywhere. Save my talking raccoon friend and all that. Anyway, yeah, I would love to see that. But he wasn't the only one who was addressing whether he's going to be coming back in Doomsday, because of course we know Mark Ruffalo's in Spider-Man: Brand New Day. And well, John, we've all wondered, when will the real Hulk show up again? And well, Mark Ruffalo was recently asked about, are you coming back soon in an Avengers movie? And he basically said, and I think if you could skip across to the next article, he was talking about how, look, I'm willing to come back as the Hulk as long as they can give me something interesting to do, basically. Like, as long as they keep finding cool things to do with the Hulk, he's happy to return. Your thoughts on this? I mean, is he implying that he may be coming back?
Mark Ruffalo is sick of, like, can we, like, actually make the Hulk again instead of the fucking butt of the joke? Like, please, thanks.
So. Yeah, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. Like, I want that Hulk. That they understood the Hulk better in that movie than they have had in any movie since. So, anyway, but hey, let's keep on rolling. We got another star addressing their possible return to the MCU.
Somehow Luke Cage returned. Maybe, who knows? I don't know.
Do you want to see Mike Coulter back as Luke Cage? Because he's
yeah, I would. Fucking Luke Cage is awesome. I would say it's underrated because a lot of people say, "Oh, the second best Netflix show was Jessica Jones." Nah, fam, it was Luke Cage. Luke Cage was was fucking goated. Um, I loved season one. I was watching season two when everything got canceled,
Yeah.
so I kind of never really went back to it. But like
Same
from
email
what I
as
watched,
well.
it was great. Even though the guy's accent was very Bushmaster, his accent was very hard to discern, but it was still fantastic, and Mike Coulter did a fucking bang up job, and I hope that we see more in regards to his character, because that cliffhanger at the end of season two, which I am aware of. Yeah, I think bring him back for Born Again season three.
I mean, he's been doing all those Comic-Con appearances over this past year with the rest of the cast of the the Netflix shows, and Liz got to meet Mike Coulter and the other gang at the Comic-Con she's went to. So yeah, and he's just doing more media at this point. I'm like, there's enough clues hidden in the first season of Daredevil Born Again that you might as well announce it. But I guess maybe they don't want to give up all their secrets at once. So we shall see. But hey, you know what? Let's keep on going, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is about to get a little more wonderful, with Joel P. West set to compose the score for Wonder Man. He previously composed the score for Short Term 12, The Glass Castle, Just Mercy. Was that the Michael B. Jordan movie? The Bachelors, and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. John, are you getting any more excited for the show? It's dropping literally in a week's time.
I don't care. I do not care.
Thank you for the.
I don't even fucking know who this guy is. Joel West.
I mean, didn't Shang-Chi had a decent score? Okay, I'm not gonna try to defend that. Let's move on.
Well, the thing is, Daniel Cretton is producing the show.
He is,
and these were most of his movies. Short Term 12, The Glass Castle, and Shang-Chi are all his movies. I'm not sure about Just Mercy or The Bachelors, but it makes sense that the guy he's collaborated with and the show he's producing.
It's like James Gunn. Yeah, James Gunn does the same. Yep. Oh no, you're right. It was directed. That was also Just Mercy was directed by Destin Daniel Cran as well. So.
Okay, I'm not sure about The Bachelors, but I'd be willing to bet that that's also the case.
Yep. All right, let's keep on rolling here. I'm excited for Wonder Man, by the way, and I'll review it on the show. But hey, Tatiana Maslany was finally asked about whether she'll be coming back for She-Hulk, and she said, "Well, Disney has approached me to play She-Hulk again, guys. I said no because I just did. This is the facts. It's out there. I was really mad at them just Vogue feminist stuff. Well, it looks like she's confirmed it. That Disney has asked, and she has said
Although,
no.
to be fair, this is from a comedy podcast, so she might have been joking on some of it. Like, I can't imagine she said the.
Well, I feel like the just Vogue feminist. Yeah, like exactly.
Like,
That's
I'm pretty sure. Like she said, they asked me to come back, and they're like, she's like, you know what? I tried the Marvel thing. I'm much better without them. I'll be Oz Perkins' muse for now, and we'll see where that goes. And honestly, that's better because the monkey was fucking awesome. And even though she had a small role in that movie, she was great in it. So yeah, I think it's safe to say just recast the character or just don't talk about her again, which is a shame because I keep saying over and over again, guys, go read the comics because the She-Hulk comics are actually really good and like way better than this fucking show ever portrayed her as. So yeah, it's a shame that such a big fan favorite character's like live action debut was just so mediocre, but win some, lose some. So yeah, 'tis a shame, but I do hope that she gets better
I do too
in the future.
And I do feel like the animation of the character, because of the show's budget, it's like you're doing a whole animated character like She-Hulk.
It should have been a movie.
The inconsistency, I think, hurt it as well. Yeah, I agree. I feel like she would do much better as a movie.
But the problem is, like, they might not have the rights because it might be a Universal thing because they can't make a Hulk movie because Universal.
Yeah, you're right.
Rights.
Because these are all, so she's like a derivative character of the Hulk, so maybe the same rights situation.
Which is funny because she broke the fourth wall before Deadpool ever was even conceived. So like, I'm just saying she was the well, if we're being very technical, Ambush Bug was the OG, but that was DC. So in terms of Marvel, she was the original fourth wall breaker before Deadpool was even a thought in fucking Rob Liefeld's mind. So, there's that too. Just saying.
Yeah. And look, there's definitely a big part of the audience that loved it. I personally thought it was up and down. I didn't think it was the worst thing ever, but I do want to see more She-Hulk. I certainly wasn't the best thing they did in terms of Disney Plus shows, but I want to see her more and better executed, like you said, John. And I would hate to not see She-Hulk in the MCU ever again. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you, Caleb. Exactly. Yeah. But let's move on. We got a few more things from the world of the MCU. Well, John, it looks like Vision Quest, which right now, if most people were betting on which Disney Plus show in 2026 will be the best one, a lot of people are going to put their money on Vision Quest. And it's going to be about the 3 generations of, well, grandfathers, fathers, and sons. Can a man who had an abusive father be a good father himself? It gets very emotional at times, and it's exciting. That's of course, I think, directly from Paul Bettany talking about the show. John, this show, and we're talking about Avengers Doomsday, all the teasers. It's all about, kids, all about legacy, and it seems like Vision Quest 2, it's all about family, right?
Your brother never told you never threaten a man's family?
Oh, other than the downer from Ron, your thoughts on the idea?
This is one of the few like non-Spider-Man projects I'd be willing to watch purely because Terry Matalas is show running it. That's like the one hope I have for this show. So I have a feeling he'll make shit out of gold, just like he did with Star Trek Picard.
Yes.
So,
we don't talk about season 2. I feel like season 1 and season 3 are the only 2 seasons that feel like they should exist for Picard.
But that's sounds like a neat idea. This, in terms of non Spider-Man stuff, I'd be willing to watch this if the reviews are good. I will say the only other thing I'm definitely watching is the Punisher special. Like that, 100% I'm watching, and I might even go back and watch the Werewolf by Night special because I heard that was amazing, and that's right up my alley, being the horror nerd. So,
Now, I mean, also like take it for what it's worth because it is something I saw on Reddit, so I don't know how valid it is, if at all. But like genuinely, I could see the pieces connecting with. There's been rumors that Vision Quest will probably more directly tie in to the themes of Doomsday, and considering what the teasers have sort of given us so far, like I could see it. And it would, I think it's the last thing that comes out before Doomsday. So
they are somewhat like this vibe. Like it seems like they are kind of adapting the visions, which everyone thought they were adapting with WandaVision. But it seemed, and the visions, it's one of the few, it's the only Tom King thing I will praise, but that was from his Marvel days. So, that was before he came in and ruined everything at DC. So, I think that's a good idea because a lot of people expected that from WandaVision. We didn't really get that, and now we're getting something like that with this. Maybe not exactly, but I do like that vibe, and I'm curious with how they'll do White Vision. So yeah, I'm curious about.
Oh, hey,
I think it'll be pretty good.
No, I'm looking forward to it. To me, this could be the best thing of the year. Look, I think the Marvel TV slate this year is underrated. Like, it has a lot of potential. Because, Wonder Man could suck, but if Wonder Man hits, then you got Vision Quest coming, the other end of the side of the year. But in between that, you got
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man season 2, man.
I mean, you got that, but then you have the Punisher, like you said, the special. You have what am I thinking of? There's another one, Daredevil Born Again season 2. They potentially have like 4 or 5 bangers on Disney Plus on top of like 2 really big movies. This could be a really good year for Marvel, and I just don't think I've been able to say that about their TV output the last couple of years. Oh yeah, and X-Men 97 also another season. Yeah, they're just potentially a lot of good things, and not everything is going to be meant for everybody, but all of these shows have niches. And it goes to show you that their new strategy of having actual showrunners run the shows, like people have been doing for decades, that Marvel decided to avoid when they first started doing shows on Disney Plus. It's starting to pay off, hopefully. So we'll see. But John, there are a couple other things we got to get into. So let's talk about that, shall we? Thank you, Justin Geeky Guy, for the super chat. But I don't know if I read that correctly, but yeah, I'm not gonna put that on screen.
He's just
he's being is he being sarcastic?
He's being very sarcastic because
very sarcastic. Okay,
calling Vision a clanker is very amusing.
Okay, well, Marvel Studios has apparently officially started. I guess if I say apparently, I can't say officially. I'm gonna say apparently Marvel Studios has started brainstorming.
No source here, so
yeah, because it's to take it with a grain of salt, but it looks like they're working on pre-production or at least ideation for season 2 of Marvel Zombies. John, this is a show that I feel like a lot of people didn't want to even have happen, or it just came a few years too late. Does anybody care for a season 2? Like, should Marvel keep making this? Like, your thoughts on it? Did you even? I don't think you saw it, but everything I heard about it and a couple episodes I watched were not to my liking. So
yeah, I heard
would
it
you
was
want
not
a
very
season
good.
2?
So I'm curious if they're actually really going to continue this or not. So
yeah, I mean, well, I guess as of right now, if you go off of this piece of news here, which again, grain of salt because they don't give you a verifiable source, we'll see if this actually turns out to be true. Some people Ron wants to see a season 2 or potentially wouldn't mind seeing it. Just some geeky guy, not a fan, and M2G not interested enough to be a fan. And they did leave it on a cliffhanger, so there you go. Maybe they can pay that off. All right, well, then we have one more piece of Marvel news we want to talk about here. John, this is just, again, circling back to Avengers Doomsday. Robert Downey Jr. posted this message in his Instagram saying thank you for over 1 billion views, kind of like in the same cadence as the X-Men will return and Avengers Doomsday, Steve Rogers will return, and then with like the Doomsday countdown clock at the end. Yeah, we talked about this on Friday. 1 billion views in the 4 teasers. The Russo brothers have got the entire internet spinning about how they're meant to be clues as opposed to or stories, and like we should pay close attention. Thank you, thank you. Will return in Doomsday. But your thoughts on this, Sean? Because like the theories are rampant now. Like I said, I went down a few too many rabbit holes over the weekend. Probably not the best thing for my personal health, as is for most other people. I feel bad for all the channels that are throwing up like theory videos like every day with a new set of theories. It's like it's tiring to start to watch them to try to keep up with it, and only to know that probably most of it is not going to be true in the end of the day anyway. But your thoughts on the marketing so far for Doomsday? They got 1 billion views, so I mean at least the numbers
it's
are
doing
there.
something right.
Yeah. Because you talked about that's like on average 250 million per. Like Superman had 150 million, right? That was their record for DC and Warner Brothers a couple of years ago or something like that. So clearly they're doing big numbers. These are like back in the prime of the superhero genre numbers from the 2010s. But hey, I'm sure we'll keep an eye on this space because there's gonna be more to come, and we'll let you guys know when they hopefully sooner than later, because I don't want to personally wait till the Super Bowl to get a full teaser trailer, but if Marvel makes us wait, then give us something else before then. But yeah, maybe that's just the part of me that was spending way too much time over the weekend digging into the theories. So anywho, you guys let us know what was your favorite part of the MCU Weekly episode today, in terms of, whether it's Doomsday, Spider-Man Brand New Day, Marvel Zombies, Vision Quest. Well, John, it is Mount Rushmore Monday time. I'm sure Paddington, it would be great. Some fan is probably going to do one of those like things where in Endgame, how they made like everybody appear, like Neo was in there, and then like the Transformers show up.
I love the
like
video where it was like more, and then they keep adding more.
They
Like the
keep
first like
adding.
few made
This is
sense,
great.
where it was like the Defenders show up and like all these unknown Marvel characters that hadn't appeared in a while, and then they started bringing in like Harry Potter and Indiana Jones.
And like Voldemort was on the other side, and like then you had Sauron, and then you had like Gandalf. I've seen like all the versions. It's amazing. It's I just want I want one of those. I'm sure somebody's gonna like there's gonna be some big fight scene in this movie, and then they're gonna have like Paddington show up in there, and then telling Doom to mind his manners and make some marmalade. But speaking of marmalade and things that start with M, it's time for Mount Rushmore Monday, John. And today's topic is rank our Mount Rushmore of superhero movies. The the first time we did a Mount Rushmore Monday, we talked about superheroes. So the concept is that we want to talk about essentially the four top in our, particular categories. So if you guys are not from the US, I mean, Mount Rushmore is this particular rock formation that they drilled four presidents' heads into. So it's like a thing of what's your Mount Rushmore? Basically, what's your greatest of all time of X, Y, and Z. So today we're going to just do our Mount Rushmore of superhero movies. Actually, for this, we put up a post on the channel's community post section, and then you guys were able to go in and leave your comments with your Mount Rushmore, and I pulled in two of the ones you guys left in there. Then we have the picks from John and I, and so we'll talk about those, and then of course, then we'll discuss, and then of course you guys are welcome to leave more in there. We can always do a follow up to this next week, or just go in the community post section, add in your Mount Rushmore superhero movies, and we'll bring those into the show on next Monday. To answer your question, Patrick, have I ever met a famous celebrity? Yes, actually I've met several famous celebrities.
Aren't you so damn special? The most famous person I have ever met is probably Jeffrey Combs. Like, that was probably out of all the famous people I talked to. But I am gonna meet Weird Al this summer, so that's probably gonna be the most famous person.
That makes me jealous because I've never met Weird Al. I mean, of course, Liz has met a ton of celebrities because she goes to all the Comic-Cons. So if she was there, she would tell you like a whole list of people. But anyway, we're here to talk about superhero movies, Mount Rushmore. So the order of the Rushmores, we got 4 of them today. We're gonna start with John's picks, then we're gonna do my picks, then we're gonna do Tony's picks. So I don't know if Tony's in the chat right now, but whenever he does watch, we've got his picks. Justin Geeky guys sending in his picks. He said Justice League, Zack Snyder Justice League, Days of Future Past, Spider-Man 2, and Watchmen. Okay, that's a good one. Feel free to drop that into the comments down below as well, or if you want to go to the community post section, we'll bring that into next week's and we can talk about it in more detail. Yeah, that's right. We all have a 1 degree of separation from famous, because we have talked about all the people she's met, including Mike Coulter that we were talking about earlier. But anyway, after Tony's picks, we'll talk about Caleb's picks. Caleb is actually in the live chat, so I wonder if he remembers his picks. But John, without further ado, let's dive into your Mount Rushmore of superhero movies. I'll put them up, and then you can tell us why you picked those 4, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll move on.
So for me, I was going off of a bit of importance in addition to my personal favorites, like Superman. That was the first real superhero movie. Like, there had been others. You had like Superman and the Mole Man, and you had Batman, but they were Batman the movie, which were more just glorified. Mole Man was a glorified pilot that was released in theaters. Essentially, it had no budget, and it was just this like very cheapo kind of thing that was kind of thrown into a theater. While Batman the show did have a bigger budget, but it was still connected to a show. Superman was the first one that was like, they took it seriously. It wasn't like cheeky or connected to a show or like kind of making fun of the idea of superhero movies. And that's thanks to the late great Richard Donner, the Salkinds. While they did do a lot for Superman, they wanted to make it a joke. Essentially, they wanted to like what like Superman 3 was. Like, it was more like tongue-in-cheek, funny, kind of making fun of the idea, making it more of a comedy. And Richard Donner was like, no, we're not doing that, and pretty much saved the movie. Not single-handedly, there was a lot of greatness that came within that. So he pretty much delivered this movie that still has not been beat. Like, say what you will about Man of Steel, say what you will about Superman 2025, and anything in between. Nobody has come close to Christopher Reeve, and nobody has come close to the quality of Superman 78 and what it did for movies, what it did for superhero movies, what it did for blockbusters at the time. It changed the game. It changed everything, but even then, it's still one of my favorites. It's probably maybe DC's best movie. I don't know, but it's definitely top 3 at the very least. So what it achieved, in addition to a personal favorite of mine, it did so much, so that I think is definitely Mount Rushmore material. Then for Batman, this is definitely the biggest degree of separation for me, because I really don't care for Batman 89 as much as I used to. I love the tone, I love the aesthetic, and I love bits and pieces here and there, some action scenes. I don't love the movie. I've kind of grown to be distasteful of it in recent memory. It just, I don't think Tim Burton understood the character of Batman. Most of Sam Hamm's really great script fell by the wayside. It went through a lot of production problems, and it's kind of it's really not as good as a lot of people make it out to be. However, what it did for the character of Batman, like the pop culture zeitgeist for the time of Adam West, was ingrained in everybody. And the fact that this, despite its production problems, despite what, mishandling of characters, despite all of this, it managed to not only achieve greatness, not only changed like the perceivedness of Batman and what it did, but it exploded the comic. Like, if Superman walked, Batman ran. Like, that's essentially what it was. It was like Superman started it all, and I think, it was like superhero stuff was starting to be taken more seriously, and then Batman just truncated that and just doubled down on it and ran with it, and it became like Batmania. Batmania was a thing for fucking years, even with as the movies got kind of lesser and lesser as time went on in the eyes of multiple people, depending on who you are. Batman 89 achieved so much, so that's why I put it on the Mount Rushmore, because what it achieved for the time is why I put it on the list. I was flipping back and forth between that and Batman Begins, because Batman Begins essentially did the same thing. Like, essentially, Batman was a joke. They tried to, not make it a joke, nothing achieved, and then Christopher Nolan managed to do what nobody else could and make Batman serious again. So I was kind of flopping back. So I'm going to give Batman Begins an honorable mention because it did something very similar. Not at the height and not as quite as big, but Batman Begins still brought seriousness back to the character of Batman. So that's, if Mount Rushmore had a fifth face, I would have given it to Batman Begins. But then with that, I wanted to go to the Marvel side. What I did, I had Spider-Man 2 as my third pick, as my first Marvel pick and my third pick here, because while I was kind of flopping towards the trifecta of what started the new age of superhero movies in the late 90s and early 2000s, which was Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man, this one is where my favorability kind of won over, because Spider-Man 2 is considered by many, including myself, to be one of the greatest superhero films of all time, and one of the greatest sequels of all time, one of what it managed to achieve. It's still the best Spider-Man movie of all time. I don't care what anybody says. Into the Spider-Verse is great. Across Spider-Verse is great. They don't even come close to Spider-Man 2. Like, those two movies are excellent. Spider-Man 2 still beats them by far. So there is the idea of connecting it to Spider-Man in addition to X-Men and Blade for what it did. And essentially those three movies are what people started to take Marvel seriously, because Marvel was kind of seen as a joke for a long time, because, they had the first movie that Marvel made in a theatrical was Howard the Duck. And so that was the first theatrically released Marvel movie with a Marvel character, and that was 1989. So it was, and then you had like The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren, and then you had Captain America in 1990, and like all these like garbage, campy crap fests, and then Blade came in and totally changed the game, and then truncated with X-Men, which was like, holy shit. And then finally not the nail in the coffin, but the thing that ran with it was Spider-Man. And then Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi achieved what very little people can achieve, is made a sequel. Okay, so not only did this man make a sequel better than the original, what many consider with Evil Dead, but he managed to do it again in his career with Spider-Man 2. And Spider-Man 2 just is the epitome. Like, when I went to go see this in the theater back in September when they were all getting re-released, that train sequence still had me on the edge of my seat. Like, that's still one of the greatest action sequences in a fucking superhero movie still to this day.
To this day, I remember that being like, oh my god,
So,
because
you
it's
know,
one of my
that's
first movies in
just
theaters. Yeah.
what Spider-Man. So it's connected to what Spider-Man and X-Men and
Mhm.
Blade achieved, but with the fact that Spider-Man 2 is just better than all three of them combined. So, you know, that's what that personally, it's just like I brought the favorite. So Batman, you kind of just have the importance. Here is the importance connection and my favorite ability because I love Spider-Man 2. And then finally is Logan. Logan, even though it was not the first R-rated superhero film, it was the one that did it right. I don't care what anybody says. Deadpool's a perfectly fine movie, but it's not Logan. It's not Logan. I'm sorry, but essentially, James Mangold had Kate Blanchett with the budget. Say what you will about the Wolverine, it's an excellent movie up until the third act. And the third act, Fox pushed for a shitty generic comic book movie third act with a big dumb gray villain, and essentially what could have been an S tier amazing movie was brought down because of studio politics. So that sucks. But then James Mangold was like, motherfucker, you better make me do the movie I want to do, because if we're not, then I'm gonna fucking murder everyone here. So with that, I think, you know, Logan just it's the best Marvel movie ever made. Like, that's saying a lot. Because again, I love Spider-Man 2. That's one of the greatest. You know, Days of Future Past, The Wolverine for the first two acts, X2, all these movies, phenomenal. Captain America the Winter Soldier, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, some of the best that the MCU had to offer. But Logan, it's just another level. If Spider-Man 2 is S tier, Logan is S plus. There's like that's like the gauntlet. That's like the tier in and of itself. If we're doing a tier list, then Logan is just almost in its own category. Almost. But X2 and Days of Future Past are definitely up there. But
Yeah.
for me, Logan, like, I tried to do like importance and my personal favorability in regards to, I wanted to have an even number, DC and Marvel. I've probably talked way too long. I greatly apologize for that. But I think these four movies, whether I personally care for them or what they did in terms of superhero cinema, in terms of importance, that's what I try to do a balance of, you know. So those are my four picks. Sorry for going a little bit too long. You know, this is DCU Daily.
No,
we got to get passionate about superhero stuff, right? So, you know, those are my
I
four
mean,
picks.
it's your Mount Rushmore, so you gotta tell us why it's important to you. And with that, I mean, I'm gonna move on and talk about my Mount Rushmore. I can tell you'll see a few repeats, and even when we get to some of the other ones, we'll see. Because yeah, a couple of these movies will not change because there's a reason why, you know, it's Mount Rushmore. It's more, it goes to show you how definitive they are. For me, the Mount Rushmore, and the criteria that I simply had was, objectively, these are some of the best made, you know, superhero movies of all time. Also, in combination with, these are some of the most important superhero movies in terms of what they did for the genre of storytelling, as well as just, you know, overall for Hollywood. And you know, just so their business, like the importance to the pop culture zeitgeist, as well as, you know, Hollywood as a business, but then, you know, from just the mark that they have left on society. So speaking of society, thank you, honka honka society, Caleb. So my Mount Rushmore includes The Dark Knight, and I feel like The Dark Knight, for whatever reason, has been getting, you know, like, not as credit for the last few years, because all of a sudden it's become cool to hate on the movie. I'm like, it's for the longest time it was considered not only the greatest superhero movie of all time, one of the greatest movies made in the 21st
We'll be getting
century
to it.
period.
Don't worry, Hunter. We're doing Mount Rushmore right now.
And yeah, so we'll get to that. But yeah, it's and I feel like there's been a bit of a backlash because everybody got tired of like The Dark Knight being like, but it's that thing that happens, you know. People nowadays talk about don't talk about The Godfather as much because after a while people got tired of the idea that Godfather is still considered the greatest movie of all time, kind of thing. You know, so like, I understand that, but that being said, The Dark Knight is, I've always said, a masterclass in pacing. It's the best Joker we've ever gotten. It's some of the best, plotted, well, written, shot, and it had some of the earliest IMAX sequences, a precursor to literally Christopher Nolan now finally shooting an entire movie in 70mm IMAX. Well, it started with The Dark Knight and shooting like sequences like that iconic Joker sequence. People infinitely quote it as part of memes. Its cultural zeitgeist, value is immense. Not to mention The Dark Knight is also the very first superhero movie at the box office to ever cross $1 billion. It came out before, 4 years before the Avengers did. And so even when you look at it from a financial perspective, The Dark Knight to this day is also, I think, Christopher Nolan's financially, highest grossing movie of all time. So he's never been able to top that number. Then, of course, John, you talked about it at length, so I don't have to, add too much more color to it. But Logan is simply the best thing Marvel has ever made. And the fact that it was the Fox Marvel and not the MCU Marvel, not Marvel Studios, it goes to show you they were doing some things right over at Fox on occasion. Hello, Steven. I don't really need to say any more than that. I mean, it's the best performance that we have ever seen from Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I think the Patrick Stewart, the older version of Professor X, and just how, again, the motif of family ties into it with Daphne Keene's X-23. The movie is a masterclass in taking the genre conventions of a superhero movie and blending them with something like a Western and just absolutely nailing it. So yeah, I mean, and I just love it. It's amazing. There's some of the most poignant moments, some of the most brutal moments the MCU has ever put together, all come from Logan. And then of course, it was a rated R movie. You could say Deadpool had a lot to do with Logan, being able to be a rated R film, because Wolverine was PG-13 and didn't really get to do a lot of what they wanted to do. James Mangold didn't really get to finish the movie that he originally had in his mind. But with Logan, he delivered a masterpiece. So with that said, the Avengers, into 2012, the Avengers, that's the movie that changed the game for superhero cinema. We all know this. It was the first Marvel movie to make $1 billion. And it was, I believe at the time, because it came out before The Dark Knight Rises, it was only the second, movie from the superhero genre to make $1 billion after The Dark Knight did it in 2008. And it finally put the pieces together. All of a sudden, after the Avengers, every movie studio wanted their own, shared cinematic universe. And pretty much every single one of them, the competitors came and went, whether it was the Sony Marvel Marvel universe of characters, or the dark universe that Universal tried to put together and failed with The Mummy and Tom Cruise, or the DCEU. Everybody else wanted a little bit of that Marvel magic.
Ironically, to survive is the MonsterVerse. Go figure. Godzilla just
somehow
stay the game.
But I mean, look, that first Avengers movie is a benchmark, even to this day. And for a lot of people, it still is one of the best MCU movies ever made, one of the best Marvel movies ever made. Is it going to change your life? No, but it's a movie that is thoroughly enjoyable, about as much of a superhero movie as any superhero movie ever has been. And then, to wrap up my Mount Rushmore, you gotta put Christopher Reeve's Superman, because Superman is the definitive superhero movie. It's the origin story that Kevin Feige and co still use as a reference point for when they're making a new origin movie. James Gunn obviously paying homage to it with the Superman to 2025 film, and it has a lot of callbacks to the portrayal of Clark Kent from back in the day. And if it wasn't for, like you said, John, Christopher Reeve Superman, the Richard Donner Superman, we wouldn't have the Batman in 1989 so much. We wouldn't be treating superhero movies like, movies that are made for people of all ages and for a wide mainstream audience, rather than just, being these niche things that are made for kids. And Superman started that. And then The Dark Knight really elevated that to the next level, and made it into an art form. And then Logan, sort of perfected this. And then, of course, the Avengers comes along in between all that and completely changes the game in terms of what Hollywood wanted. The new hot thing in Hollywood was the shared cinematic universe. And so all of these movies, I think, have a very good reason. And a lot of them have different reasons for existing on my Mount Rushmore. And I think that's a pretty good reason for that. And yeah. I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's so many other movies I considered, but I felt these four were the ones for me. Now, of course, we want to talk about Tony's. Tony had actually virtually Tony. I don't know if Tony's watching live. I don't think he is, but I know Tony, you're gonna check this out afterwards. So I will bring in your reasoning because with your comment in the community post section where we asked for your picks, you gave us Superman, the 1978 Superman, saying it might be the oldest on your list, but it's the list. It's a list of your favorite superhero movies, or the first superhero movie you ever saw. So that's the very first one you saw, and Tony said it's his favorite Richard Donner film. Christopher Reeve is beloved as Superman because he made us believe a man could fly and set the blueprint for everything since. Then, of course, much like you, John, he put Batman 1989 after it, saying I went with The Dark Knight, and I probably do like that movie more. But like Superman, this movie changed everything for how superhero movies were perceived and set time for Batman for decades to come in terms of just our perception of what Batman as a character is. Not my favorite Tim Burton movie, says Tony. Beetlejuice is, sorry. But he did great. You don't have to apologize, Tony. But Tim Burton still did great. So again, putting Batman and Superman in there. Then, of course, he follows it up with Captain America, the Winter Soldier. This is the first time we see the Winter Soldier on the Mount Rushmore, and then Tony said it's an actual spy movie with a superhero coding that made this the perfect film, saying, and then that's, again, blending those genres perfectly. Tony said with the origin out of the way, we were delivered a sequel unlike anything else, cementing the Russo brothers as players in the game. And yeah, absolutely. It was this movie that brought the Russo brothers into the MCU, and they're still around. And well, now was it 4 movies in to the MCU? They might be giving us the 5th, and they will be giving us their 5th and 6th and most important movies in the history of the MCU soon enough. Then, of course, the end of Mount Rushmore for Tony, he rounds it out with Logan. Logan, now having been on 3 Mount Rushmores in a row, has got to tell you something about the greatness of the
Superman
film.
has been on 3 Mount Rushmores in a row too.
Yeah. Superman and Logan. It goes to show you how essential it is. I feel like The Dark Knight should get more credit, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But to give you the reasoning that Tony had for Logan, he said X-Men made me instantly a fan of Hugh Jackman, and this was the swan song he deserved, even though we know he's going to do this till he's 90. James Mangold delivered a masterpiece. And you know what? I couldn't agree with any of, with all of that anymore, Tony. You did a great job with your Mount Rushmore. John, your thoughts on the Mount Rushmore from Tony?
I mean, it's pretty much my list, but instead of Spider-Man 2, it's another, superhero sequel, so there's that. I mean, I think, no, I
Monique
agree.
agrees with it.
89 is vastly overrated. I don't think it's that great of a movie, but I was putting it on for the importance of it, so, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's essentially my list, but Spider-Man 2 is the better movie, so, yeah.
But like it's all subjective, right? That's why your Mount Rushmore is your Mount Rushmore, and this is why we're looking at Tony's. And yeah, we all better hope that the Russos have a little bit of magic left, because if Doomsday fails, it's also probably a bad thing for even the DCU, because I think the larger comic book movie landscape needs a successful MCU in order for the DC side of things to succeed, to thrive as well. So that being said, we gotta wrap this up by talking about
Suicide Squad 2016. 4 different ones. There you go.
The Mount Rushmore from Caleb. And believe it or not, he actually did not put any Suicide Squad movies in his Mount Rushmore. And Caleb, since you are watching live, feel free to defend your picks, but here we go. You put X-Men Days of Future Past. That's the first time we've seen that on the list. I think there's a very good chance, based on all the theories I'm seeing out there, that the events of Days of Future Past might somehow figure into the events of Doomsday. Again, just based on rumors, but I mean, John, I think you and I have talked about it before, ranking X-Men movies. Days of Future Past is one of, if not maybe, the best X-Men movie that they've ever put out at Fox. I mean, obviously, you've got Logan, you've got X2, but Days of Future Past, just somehow found a way to balance, so many characters in a way that just wasn't really done before. Then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. What else can you say?
It's my favorite MCU movie, so there's
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all, or he may have been your father, but he sure ain't were your daddy. It's like, I cannot tell you how many times I've watched that movie, but the very first time I saw it, I was like, why is Yondu all of a sudden such a central character to the story as this it's like the hate on Yondu for what he did and all that just felt like it was kind of coming out of nowhere, because I'm like, okay, so he kidnapped Peter Quill and then took him all around the galaxy for years, and only now is he getting all this crap for it. Peter Quill is grown up and as an adult, and they clearly have a relation. Anyway, so it felt a little like off, but never has an MCU movie snuck up on you like the way this movie does in the third act, in terms of the emotional payoffs to everything they set up. And I mean, obviously, visuals I think were a step up from the first Guardians movie, and James Gunn, I think is one of his best works. I know, John, this is for you the favorite Guardians movie that amongst the trilogy. Yeah, the Ravager funeral at the end is probably one of the few things in the MCU that makes me cry every time. Great pick, Caleb. All around great pick. And then of course we got Unbreakable, the Bruce Willis film, the very first and
the best M. Night
trilogy.
Shyamalan movie. There, I said it.
Not Signs, or
fuck no, Signs sucks. Like Sixth Sense is very good. Unbreakable is perfect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Unbreakable, I think, is the best of that trilogy. It was the first one. I thought it was really ahead of its time. I was telling you this before the show. I don't think that movie is appreciated enough, and I think we could probably do a whole tier list on the most underrated or most unappreciated superhero movies of all time. Movies that kind of like came and went, and we just didn't have an appreciation for it up until now. I mean, Unbreakable is a movie, if you have never seen it, go watch it like now. I know you were considering Split as well, Caleb, but I think you made the right choice because I think Unbreakable is a better movie. Anyway, then we have, of course, Caleb wrapping his up or rounding out his Mount Rushmore.
Liked Glass. I get why people don't like it, but I actually really liked Glass. I thought it worked. I liked what it was going for, and
yeah.
Well,
when it comes to the Mount Rushmore conversation, though, I think if you're gonna pick any of those three, Unbreakable is a pretty good, pretty safe bet. But then, of course, Caleb put in The Crow. I made sure to ask Caleb whether he was talking about the original Crow. I was like, I think it's a safe bet to assume you're not talking about the 2025.
There is no other Crows.
Yeah. Well, Caleb said you don't talk about that.
There is no Warren Bossing say. There are no other Crows. There's only one Crow, and that's with Brandon Lee.
So, yeah. Well, Brandon Lee's, despite the tragedy on set, The Crow. I mean, this is definitely the most different list. None of these movies are on any of the other Mount Rushmores we did. So very contrarian, but I think it goes to show you like how much things can vary from people to people. And Caleb has a very different set of tastes in superhero movies. But, yeah, very eclectic. That's a good way of describing it. But yeah, all right. So that was Mount Rushmore Monday. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you enjoy that? Of course, a few of you guys sent us your picks already, but drop in the comments down below what your Mount Rushmore of superhero movies are. We can do a follow up and do another one of these and bring your picks in. I think I noted down the picks from MTG and Movie Spud and Enterprising. So yeah. And Justin Geeky Guy
Batman 89 crawled out of a drainage pipe so that the Crow could run. I will always die on that hill.
Shouldn't the Crow be flying? Anyway. Okay, and that's it for Mount Rushmore Monday. Ranking our Mount Rushmore of superhero movies. What are your Mount Rushmore of superhero movies? Let us know in the comments down below. And of course, if you guys are in the live chat, we appreciate it. Hit the like button while you're at it, and we'll bring your picks from the comments into the next version, the next edition of Mount Rushmore Monday, and we'll talk about your Mount Rushmore of superhero movies. Until then, let's move on to the quick hits part of the show, John. Let's hit that music. We got a bunch of quick hits to get into. There's a few of them.
So
speaking of DC,
first thing is still on the superhero binge, but David Gordon Sweat is getting back into superhero shape ahead of filming for Man of Tomorrow. So hell yeah!
Can you see him? Is he disappearing into another photo? Oh yeah, he's back there in a very flexing. Loose sweater. I can't even tell if he's got any muscle.
It looks pretty fucking muscular.
He looks good. Look at those legs. He does not skip leg day. Superman does not skip leg day. So, yeah. Cool.
Hell yeah.
I mean, he better be getting in superhero shape. He better be getting off those brownies.
Speaking of sequels, James Wan's Paranormal Activity sequel gets summer 2027 release date. Who cares? People stopped caring like 6 movies ago for Paranormal Activity. Like, I think like the last good one was like the 3rd one. So why do people care? Why do they keep making them? I don't know. They keep making money for some
Enterprising
reason.
is excited.
So
Enterprising wants to see it.
no.
Do you want to look at? Do you want to look at the actual release date? I think they give you the release date in the article. I don't know if you care. Oh, May 21st. Okay.
There you go. May 21st next year. So all three people that are actually excited for this crap, they can go watch it because God knows I'm not. Anyway, next up, Steve Coogan and Caleb, name I can't pronounce, join White Lotus
Caleb
season
Edwards?
4 cast. Caleb Jonte Edwards?
We're just gonna go with that. Yeah. Thank you, Bane. We appreciate your Mount Rushmore. Absolutely. No, this is good, fun. They keep adding to the cast. We know where they're gonna be filming. Is gonna be in France. I think we even got the name of the hotel last week or 2 weeks ago. So, Steve Coogan, I would totally see him in this. He's the perfect kind of actor for the White Lotus. So yeah, I loved him in the Night at the Museum movies. He was like the Roman general. Caleb with C. Yeah, your arch nemesis, of course.
Anyway. But
we haven't seen that Caleb in a long time in the live chat. Let's keep going. Pass, yeah.
But
Even
next
though
up,
not that interesting.
kind of weirdly ironic that Speedy Gonzalez movie in the works with Jorge
Good
R.
stuff, Heroes.
Gutierrez to direct for Warner Brothers. So the thing that I find interesting about this, because Mr. Zaslav,
I knew you were gonna go this. I knew you
said
were gonna
many
go there.
times that nobody cares about the Looney Tunes, how they're no longer relevant, they don't make money. Coyote versus Acme got written off as a tax write-off, but apparently not to the Mexicans, so we are going to be getting a Speedy Gonzalez movie. So Zaslav, what changed? Are you seeing that Coyote vs. Acme is actually going to make money? Did you see that the day the Earth blew up made money? Like, what's with the change of heart here? Because it's very interesting.
I mean, look, as long as they don't put this movie on ice after making it, I think we'll be fine.
Well, Caleb, Dan already did it for you, so
yeah. All right.
Anyway, who doesn't love Speedy Gonzalez? Hell yeah. Next up, Rian Johnson responds to Kathleen Kennedy's comments about his unmade Star Wars trilogy. Once he made the Netflix deal and went off to start doing the Knives Out films, that has occupied a huge amount of his time. That's the other thing that happens here after Sean and I started talking about Star Wars. Stranger Things kicks in. He was completely consumed for a while by that. That's what happened with Ryan. And then I do believe he got spooked by the online negativity. I think Ryan made one of the best Star Wars movies. Ew. He's a brilliant filmmaker. Ew. And he got spooked, rightfully so. This is the rough part. When people come into this space, I have every filmmaker and actor say to me what's going to happen. They're a little scared. And then Rian Johnson claps back by saying, LOL, zero spooked. Sorry.
I mean, look, it's one of those situations where I saw this and I was like, oh, is he clapping back at Kathleen Kennedy, or is he actually just talking about like the fans, not liking his version of Star Wars wouldn't have stopped him from doing an actual trilogy? Or maybe this is more along the lines of, we remember Kathleen Kennedy couldn't get on the same page with any of her directors. Remember, like the Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, they were working on Solo, got kicked off, and I mean, it's obviously with Rogue One they had that whole issue. Ron Howard comes. It's just all of these things that happen. I mean, not Ron Howard did Solo, but anyway, the point is like, and then even the other ones from Patty Jenkins to whatever. I mean, she mentioned that the Taika Waititi script is still alive, but like, there's many other examples of. I mean, the Kevin Feige one, whatever happened to that movie. Maybe Rian Johnson just ultimately couldn't get on the same page as her, and Kathleen Kennedy just staying spooked like 3 times in that one comment. You know what? If indeed Rian Johnson fell out with Kathleen Kennedy, then I get it, because she's trying to like mischaracterize what happened, and he's like, nope, it wasn't because I got spooked, but maybe he's leaving the other half of that sentence unsaid. So we'll see.
Yes.
I personally thought The Last Jedi was good. I just think the third movie completely like destroyed the whole trilogy.
But that's not the last. Somehow Kathleen Kennedy returned because her exit reveals a secret animated Indiana Jones series that was quietly canceled. But apparently an Indiana Jones animated series was in development but soon canceled by Lucasfilms. Would have followed Indiana Jones on Adventures set in between the events of the films. Rodrigo Blas was developing the show, and could have been interesting. Probably good that it got canceled because it probably wouldn't have been very good. So,
wasn't there another animated Indiana Jones show back in the day, or am I thinking of like a video game? Like it's so.
You're probably thinking of the Young Indiana Jones Adventures with Sean Patrick Flannery.
Okay, so that wasn't animated. Okay, anyway, it is a shame, but I mean, look, I think Indiana Jones needs to sit on the shelf for a little while before they resurrect it once more. So, and probably without Harrison Ford this time. Maybe Tom Selleck could play an old Indiana Jones. Anyway, let's move on.
That would be funny, but I think maybe get Troy Baker in there. He did a really good job with the Great Circle. So, because a friend of mine actually had a really good idea where they're like, what he would have imagined for an Indiana Jones 5 is essentially get Harrison Ford to voice the character in like an Adventures of Tintin style mocap movie, so you don't have to worry about his age, and then you still have him playing the character. So it doesn't we don't see decrepit 70-year-old Harrison Ford trying to do action sequences.
Well, I think the only way that you could make that work is if it's in continuity. It would have to be like it would take place between the events of some of the other movies, right? Because they kind of wrapped up his story with the last one. Like he's old and now going off into the sunset. Chris Pratt could be a good Indiana Jones, though. That's actually one role I would really love to see Chris Pratt try on if they were to go there. Anyway. Let's keep on going.
But anyway, SNL spoofs heated rivalry with Harry Potter characters in heated wizardry. So Finn Wolfhard recently hosted the show, and with that he stepped into the role of Harry Potter with Ben Marshall playing Ron Weasley of, Please Don't Destroy. So they were, doing a little bit of a heated rivalry thing going on, lots of gay stuff, and it was I've seen bits and pieces of it. It was very amusing, and honestly, I assume J.K. Rowling is in heaven right now because she loves making characters retroactively gay. God knows half of her characters became retroactively gay after she, finished the books. So, this is great.
I mean, this was great. It was hilarious. Obviously, the heated rivalry, craze is still ongoing. I saw one of the actors was in Fashion Week in Milan today, and the other actor's finishing a movie that he had to stop for all the promotion that they've been doing, showing up in all these interviews and magazine covers and presenting at the Golden Globes. But yeah, Finn Wolfhard, Ben Marshall. Apparently Harry Potter and Ron Weasley fall in love because they're Quidditch players in opposing teams. So I don't remember if like they're in two different houses, because isn't that how that works? Because like if Harry's on Gryffindor, then does that mean that Ron got drafted to like a different house? Like I wonder, how that
I think they're on the same team because
is it okay?
Yeah. It's just
okay,
gay. That's all it is. It's
okay,
sports and gay, and that's the main thing about heated rivalries. So
cool. All right, moving on.
Anywho. But next up, Tomb Raider. GameStop rejects Sophie Turner's take on Lara Croft. Just simply saying, this is not Lara Croft. Okay, you and all the other fucking man babies crying about this because of various reasons, good and bad, maybe, I don't know, but it's just like, it's just a picture. It's just a picture, guys.
Look, I didn't understand this. I'm like, what happened? Did the GameStop like social media person go rogue just to make this happen? Because I don't understand like why the social media account of a company like GameStop would be like, this is not Lara Croft. Like,
I don't know.
I don't get it.
I think they're just trying to do like a.
Are they jumping on a trend? Like, are they being ironic about this? Because I'm like, Amazon Prime's got way more money than GameStop.
The only thing is if they were like, oh, she's not Lara Croft because she doesn't have the pointy pixelated boobs like in her first game. Then it would have been funny. Then it would be like, oh, that's not Lara Croft. Her boobs are round. Like, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
Like, because that's
But like
the
we
whole-
don't.
I mean,
it's
look
like
at the
we don't like.
picture on the right.
We're
That's
not
the
trying to
whole point.
objectify. Yeah, but like, it's like you want to go beyond the whole objectification of the character.
No, I know. It's just
Again,
like
and
it's just like that's the kind of funny thing
Yeah.
because it's like it's not accurate because she doesn't have the pointy boobs. Like that's the only thing I could think of that would like maybe make this kind of funny. And I don't know. It's just like
look,
no
we
matter
haven't-
what.
Yeah.
Like, literally, they're the same fucking size. Like, look, that
Yeah.
PS1, her, same size. Whatever. It's just like
I mean, and,
no
and
matter...
Sophie Turner is not exactly what you would call flat-chested, and not that should matter. But like Anime Night was saying, look, there was the Alicia Vikander version as well. I mean, Angelina Jolie played it. I feel like people just want to go back to that era, but I mean that's not gonna happen. Yeah, Ben will break you says she needs more polygons. Okay. I'm just saying we haven't seen the show yet. We haven't seen
like
this yet.
nothing's gonna like.
So-
I mean, the picture looks good. She looks good. I mean, the show was probably gonna be terrible anyway. But like,
Yeah.
she looks fine. Like, no matter what, people were gonna complain. Like,
I'm gonna give the show a chance. And look, Amazon Prime, Jeff Bezos got enough fuck you money to buy GameStop 10 times over and shut them down 50 times twice. So I don't understand why GameStop needs to get into all of this. Like, they're a company that's half dead anyway. So
anyway, moving on to bigger and better things. The Amanda Seyfried says winning an Oscar is not important. Do you remember who won in the past 10 years? I can kind of see her point because, I mean, many actors have voiced that, like, Oscars do very little for their careers, and we'll get into that soon. But it just, she kind of has a point in just, like, would winning she has said, like, would winning an Oscar be nice? Sure. But, like, I just do things that are of interest to me. Like, because she mentioned this in the article, how she's like, I was able to do something like poppy and mainstream, like The Housemaid, which made a lot of money. But then at the same time, I was able to do something I really liked and was able to focus my acting into with Testament of Ann Lee. So she was like, I'm able to do both. And like, and with that, I'm just gonna do what I like and enjoy what I like and do the things I'm interested in. And I'm not gonna worry about winning a statue about it. So yeah, I can see that.
Oh dang, that's happening in the Loud House anime night? Damn, that's bad. That sucks. I actually like to watch Loud House. But I mean, John, as far as what you're saying, I agree, because like here's the thing, an Oscar is not a something that you need to, I don't know, like underscore your career as being successful. Plenty of great actors don't have an Oscar. Like Ray Fiennes doesn't have an Oscar. We wish he did. Gary Oldman didn't get his for a long time. Leonardo DiCaprio didn't get his for a long time. Tom Cruise just got an honorary one. Jackie Chan only got an honorary one. So there's plenty of actors out there who have had amazing careers and they don't have an Oscar on their mantle. I mean, Amanda Seyfried also was talking about it from a business standpoint. She mentioned that what's more important is being nominated, because then that's kind of like, you're able to kind of like up your rate. Essentially, she was implying this, that agents will be able to like get you different roles, bigger roles. But it's not always like a blessing either, because sometimes you can win an Oscar and then all of a sudden you can get typecasted. There's the Oscars curse we have talked about before. Like, I think, I'm forgetting her name. She went for Honora. Mikey Madison. I remember talking about this last year. Their agents were trying to make sure that she didn't get typecast after winning the Oscar for Honora. So they were being very judicious about picking her next roles. And we haven't seen her in a ton, but like when we do, those are going to be roles that they were very carefully picked out. Doesn't necessarily mean those movies will be successful, but I totally understand what she's saying here, Amanda Seyfried. So, speaking of which, John.
Yes, the next thing we have does, say a lot about it, is that winning an Oscar has not been good for me or my career, because, I mean, Brendan Fraser has talked about this. So many people have talked about how winning an Oscar doesn't really further their career that much. It almost hinders it. I mean, Ke-Huy Quan also talked about this with his career, how he had trouble getting work after, winning his Oscars. So, I don't know. It's weird, but I guess that's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, well, she talked about basically like her character. I think she won this for the movie The Fighter, the Mark Wahlberg movie, as a best supporting actor role. And she was talking about how she's just not gotten the diversity of roles she did before. Like she played this like really nasty character, like this. She called her this nasty woman character. Again, her words, not mine. Melissa Leo said this, and she was like, I just keep getting asked to play those similar roles now because everybody's like, you won an Oscar for playing that. Why don't you play it in our movie? It's that whole thing, like where Mikey Madison was trying to avoid that. But again, not every actor is going to have that same profile, and it's just getting cast in Hollywood projects is tough as it is. Then being kind of like typecasted and then having an Oscar that now further reinforces that. You can either lean into it or like you can. It's hard, but not everybody's gonna have the same level of success. So yeah, and an Oscar could be a double-edged sword, at least on the acting side. So yeah. Understandable.
But next up we have Sentimental Value sweeping the European Film Awards. It took Best Film. Joachim Trier won Best Director, and Stellan Skarsgård and Renee Riensiv scooped Best Actor and Best Actress honors. Yeah. So
this was the movie that I mean, look, I think Golden Globes had this as like the only international movie nominated outside of like all the American ones. I hope to see more representation of the international films that didn't really get picked much at the Golden Globes, but I think we're going to be getting the Academy to bring in a lot more of those. Sentimental Value, it could be the underdog. Like it might actually start picking up momentum and do really well at the Oscars. So because the Academy is a much more diversified voter base than like the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So yeah, good for this movie. I mean, I heard Stellan Skarsgård did a great job in this, and I mean, your mileage may vary with Joaquin Trier, but yeah, Sentimental Value. So
yeah,
congratulations.
Next up, Matt Damon says getting canceled will follow you to the grave. I bet some of those people would have preferred to go to jail for 18 months instead. Interesting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, he was making a more like point about how it's that whole idea of, if you go to jail for 18 months, you walk out, you've done your time. If you get canceled, that's gonna be like a stain on your reputation till you die, really, unless you somehow, I don't know, get uncanceled, which I don't even know if that's really a concept or not. We've been seeing like controversies in Hollywood around people, like, I mean, there's one going on right now with Thomas Busfield.
I don't even know who that is.
Well, I only know because I'm on these sites looking for news stories every day for the show. But anyway, let's keep on going. I'm sure we're gonna hear more from Matt Damon in the rest of the tickets.
Phoebe Dynevor led film moves to Netflix after losing its Sony theatrical release. Director Tommy Wirkola's untitled feature was previously known as Shiver and had been rescheduled to hit theaters this summer, so sorry to them. But Tommy Wirkola, I think one of his previous movies was Fat Man, so I hope it's good, even if it's still on Netflix, so good luck to it.
Yeah, this is one of those things that's part of that Netflix Sony deal you mentioned the other day. Now that deal has expanded to basically cover everywhere, like worldwide. It was used to be just in the US, where not only does Netflix get the pay one window to stream all Sony movies once they're out of theaters, but then Sony also can take some of their movies if they don't feel like it's worth of theatrical release. They can just send it directly to Netflix. Like K-Pop Demon Hunters was a Sony film that directly got released on Netflix, just blew up, became the highest, the most watched movie on Netflix ever, and then they released it in theaters a couple of times, and the sequels will be made for Netflix. So this is another one of those. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's going to blow up like K-Pop Demon Hunter, but this is part of the relationship that Sony and Netflix have and have been working on for the last few years. So.
Yeah. But another Matt Damon, going back to Matt Damon a little bit, but he says Netflix wants movies to restate the plot 3 or 4 times in the dialogue because viewers are on their phones while they're watching. Yeah, maybe this explains why 90% of Netflix movies fucking blow.
Yeah, because it's about, basically he was talking about how Netflix, the way they like to make movies, maybe like you said, John, part of the reason why they suck is because they're being made for the ever shrinking attention spans of the Netflix audience.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But bro said the quiet part out loud, and balls in your court, Netflix. So yeah.
Well, he's been promoting the new movie that he's got out on Netflix with Ben Affleck, the Rip. This is where all this is coming from.
But yeah, then next up we have Dave Bautista His birthday is today.
It was on. No, was it on? I think it was Saturday, wasn't it?
It was Saturday. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Been very all over the place. But Dave Bautista recently celebrated birthday, so happy birthday, Dave Bautista.
Happy birthday to Drax, and hopefully soon to be
the
a part
man
of the DCU.
who is unable to make a good movie, even though he wants to make more good movies. So,
actually, I think it was Sunday. It was Sunday. Was his probably one of the best, if not the best, actor turned.
Too bad his agent fucking blows.
Well, he's got that new movie with Jason Momoa on Amazon coming out, right?
Yeah, but that's like not the type of shit he wanted to be doing.
I know. Well, I guess this is the thing about typecasting we were talking about earlier. So
yeah,
not that he has an Oscar.
But what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, going back to Matt Damon. It's just like every other one is Matt Damon. But Matt Damon says Clint Eastwood shut down his request to film more takes. Why? You want to waste everybody's time?
Well, because like famously, Clint Eastwood is very judicious with his takes. Like unlike some directors like James Cameron, he will just keep on doing takes till the actors get tired and walk off the set. Clint Eastwood is, I mean, Tom Hanks has talked about it when they filmed the Sully film, as well as many other projects. Actors tell you, look, Clint is on set, he knows the shots he wants, you do the take, and if the take is good, he's like, all right, we're done, we're moving on. Clint Eastwood is not one of those directors who's ever been like, let's do one for safety. How about you do a little bit differently? He's like, we got it, and we're moving on. And Matt Damon, of course, as most actors do, they're used to directors who want to do multiple takes. And when he brought this up to Clint Eastwood, and Clint Eastwood, of course, is one of those old school. He's like, "Why, you want to waste everybody's time?" Like, it's like just moving on. We got the shot.
Also,
are you the director? It's
also the way he doesn't like say action or cut. Like I remember Tom Hanks talking about this, where Clint Eastwood was just like, "All right, go ahead." And then they like start acting, and then when they're done, he's like, "Okay, that's enough."
I'm just like, can you imagine? He's just like, it's like actors are like racehorses. They're waiting for like the shotgun to go off, and then for the flag to wave at the end of the line, and then instead Clint Eastwood would just like sitting there, legs crossed, and be like, "Yeah, go ahead." It's like the king. It's like, all right, that's enough.
And then
moving on.
Yeah, but Tom Hanks says he treats actors like horses because, Clint Eastwood, he did a lot of Westerns, so whenever you would say action, it would spook the horses, so they had to be quieter. So he learned from that, like filming them and then eventually directing them. He was like, all right, go ahead. So that's why he, doesn't say action.
Makes sense, yeah. But don't waste everybody's time. You got the shot, you move on. I like that because you know what? Also, when you're working with film, it's expensive. So why waste any film when you got the shot you need? So, and on that note, we got the shot we need for the news part of the show. So thank you guys for watching the news and quick hits part of today's programming. Of course, we're not done yet. The ride ain't over yet because we just got to talk about everything James Gunn was talking about over the weekend. He did a big Q&A on Threads. Anytime he does that, we usually get a bunch of updates. We have a ton of updates regarding the slate that is upcoming on the DCU, even beyond just DC Studios in general. We'll talk about everything James Gunn mentioned. There's a lot of photos being posted from Justice League behind the scenes, and it's not just Zack Snyder posting them. And while there's that whole trend of 2026 is the new 2016, like the Patriots and Broncos are back in the AFC title game, and all kinds of like parallels being drawn between what was going on 10 years ago. Well, the last time we had all that kind of stuff happening with the Snyderverse, we got the Snyder Cut announcement. So is there any more to that whole situation? We'll talk about that. Let's get into DCU Daily, and we'll talk about all that and so much more.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chorus.
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you really I'm doing sublime. I never wait in a stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Hunka hunka.
All right, welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily. It's gonna be a fun one. We were teasing it before the intro. We've got a lot of James Gunn Slate updates for the DCU. It's on the thumbnail. We got to talk about, of course, the latest from Lanterns. We have some updates about Batman the Caped Crusader Season 2. What's going on with all those photos that Zack Snyder, Jason Momoa, and even Gal Gadot are posting from Justice League back in the day? The last time that was happening, it ended up with the announcement of the Snyder Cut. Is anything like that going to happen again? It's Victory Mine time. It's DC time. John, which of those things that I just mentioned are you most excited to discuss today?
I'm excited to talk about all the damn Slate stuff. What did Gunn say? Ring ding ding, baby. Let's go.
Let's go indeed. Let's go indeed. Everybody in the chat, thanks for joining in. Of course, we're going to start off with some quick hits. You guys are just going off in the chat. Tom King. I'm sure Tom King is going to make it into the show, Caleb. Don't you worry. Tom King is always a part of DCU Daily. But we will kick things off with the DC Paris Ducks Pelicans, aka the quick hits of DCU news. We got a first look at some of the packaging, I guess, display key art, as it were, for Supergirl. And I feel like it's just, again, reinforcing the idea that the Supergirl logo and the way the logo treatment, it's all pretty much Superman, except the logo is more gritty, it's a little dirtied up, and they're just going to stick with that motif the rest of the way. So I like the idea that this is going to give you that sense of recognizability with what we saw with Superman, because a lot of people saw that movie, and that will be something that Supergirl will need, because immediately somebody who's not a big fan of the franchise or not really a big superhero movie fan, they're like, wait, that looks like the movie I saw last year. So they must be sort of connected. It could also lead to, like, are they the same thing? But then you're like, oh, that was Superman. This is Supergirl. Oh, but it's like the same looking logo. It looks slightly different, but it looks close enough. I got to go check it out because I really love Superman. So I see the thinking and I like it. It's cosmic beauty, as Enterprising was saying. Yeah, and we got so much exciting DC news, Enterprising. Speaking of which, let's move on to the next thing. We got a few more DC quickies to talk about. John, this one was kind of interesting. Apparently, we got an announcement from Jeff Lemire for the Fury of Firestorm, a new next level series with Rafael Della Torre and Email. I couldn't tell what their full name was. It's coming this spring, and you can see some of the artwork here. More details will be in the newsletter from Jeff Lemire. So they're making a new Firestorm comic as part of the next level series, John. Is this one you'll be picking up?
Probably not. I just haven't been into comics as of late. So maybe eventually, but for right now, probably not.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, again, DC had a really good year last year in the comics world, and here we are, and they're not stopping anywhere anytime soon. So now let's talk about a little bit. John, there's just been this ongoing slew of images from Zack Snyder on his, relatively newly minted Instagram account. He posts a lot about, different things, but a lot of DC stuff. Every other day, every 2 days, he will post some behind the scenes photos from, his time at DC. And here we go. Here we are with more photos from the set of Justice League, which was filming in 2016, the year that Batman v Superman came out. John, if you want to slide through this carousel, these were the posts from Zack Snyder a couple of days ago. You got Wonder Woman. You of course have elements of Aquaman set, rustic stuff. I mean, you got some green screen set shooting here with Hippolyta, of course, from it's meant to be Themyscira, I imagine. Even some storyboards of the unmade part 1, part 2, when this was meant to be like a 2-part, 3-part series of movies. Is there more to it than I think? Is there more? There are more storyboards. Yeah. Justin, you guys been looking at this for 5 hours? I'm sure there are people out there who've done that, of Ezra Miller's Flash. That's not Henry Cavill's back. I'm sure Ray Fisher's back. And then, of course, Jason Momoa. And one more. Yep, Zack Snyder on a dolly with his camera. So, but he wasn't the only one posting about it for once, because Jason Momoa also put up some behind the scenes set photos from 2016 saying, effing 10 years, time to get back in shape. So between that and the Zack Snyder stuff, and then of course Gal Gadot posted a few things. We didn't really pull any of those here, but if you go to the next one here, John, we got, I think, even more from Zack Snyder because, of course, he got a big response, and so he decided to post a few more. I never knew that there was this huge poster of Harley Quinn's mugshot. It looks like a mugshot that Ezra Miller stared at on the set of. I can only imagine that's the Justice League movie. Interesting stuff. What was the first one again? He was like, "There's two more, so there's this, and then there's of course, Jason Momoa being Lobo. I mean Aquaman playing a guitar." Your thoughts on these photos? It's like that now. There's all these different. It's not just Zack Snyder. It's also Gal Gadot. It's also Jason Momoa. Is this all just simply a matter of 2026 is the new 2016 trend, or is there more to it than that?
I think it's partly because Jason Momoa is playing Lobo now, so there might be something there. But yeah, that's kind of it. And I think Zack Snyder has just remained
I could just feel you getting frustrated as you talk about it.
I think he's just remembering the past. That's he's like
he's reminiscing.
That's
he's
the word I'm
reminiscing.
looking for.
Well, I mean, we're not done yet looking at the photos that Zack Snyder's been posting. I did see that Hunter Iggy, but I don't know if they're coming back. I'll wait for the announcement to really make any judgments there. I just think, again, he's reminiscing. Apparently, there's more photos of Henry Cavill in the Christopher Reeves era suit than we even knew before. This is not one of those ones that he posed for heroically outside. This is just in the green room somewhere. I don't think I've seen Henry Cavill without eye makeup before. Unless that's just the lighting.
I think that's just the lighting. He looks almost sickly here.
He looks sickly. Yeah, I was gonna say it's just. I think it's the eyes. That's what it is. Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly, this is stuff where they were just they were just doing test shots, right? Like every film, you start with the concept, then you work from there. Sometimes they bring these suits out just to kind of see okay, roughly for the wardrobe department how it all looks before they start, because the suit that they're ultimately going to use is not made yet, so it's all part of the process. And Zack Snyder loves reminiscing. At least I feel like this is at least indicative of the fact that Zack Snyder found some closure with the Snyder Cut, so that now he's able to look back at this fondly rather than look back at it as some terrible part of his life like he did for many years. But moving on from the past of the DCEU to what could be the future of the DCU, John, and there is a connection between the two, and that of course is Darkseid. I just wanted to bring this up because somebody mentioned this in our chat the other day. Should we do a Fancast Friday where we either have Christopher Judge in the DCU and we pick out a bunch of characters, or should we do a Darkseid DCU Fancast Friday where Christopher Judge could be one of the picks? Because while Kratos is now taken, I feel like Christopher Judge could do this, and they could do it even practically, and maybe they scale him up or something. And I don't know, your thoughts on maybe him taking on the role?
I think it would be awesome. Maybe he's a little bit too old at this point. Maybe they want to go with a younger actor, but I think he could. He has the voice. He has the stature. I think he can do it.
I still think he's jacked. He's not all of a sudden. I don't think he's slimmed down. But
I mean, according to Tom King, they already picked a Darkseid for the Mr. Miracle animated show. So
I mean, and he would be a great candidate for have him voice the role and then eventually become the live action iteration too. This would be great. I would love it. I love it. So maybe we will do it as a Fancast Friday. Let's keep on going because, hey, Kyle Chandler was on the Today Show and he was talking about lanterns. And I don't think he gave much away. But basically when he was asked about what was it like filming lanterns, he was like, it's an excellent experience. And I think, the quote was, I've never had as much fun shooting something as I did that. The people from the top to the bottom, I can't say enough about Chris Mundy and the producers, the DC folks. It was an excellent experience. I expect the show to be as good as the experience that I had. Aaron Pierre, who I worked with, he and I had a great time. John, really not giving away much, but I guess he had fun on set. And Chris Mundy's a great producer as well as all the other folks. I don't know if you agree with that. But
well, I mean, Chris Mundy has done good work in the past. I mean, he worked on Bloodline with Kyle Chandler, so there's
Of
that.
course, he did
And,
what was the Jason
and then
Bateman
he
show?
did Ozark.
Right, Ozark, yeah.
So, I have nothing against Kyle Chandler. I have nothing against Aaron Pierre, Chris Monday. I can't exactly say anything about him because I haven't seen any of his work, so I don't know how good or bad he is. But I have seen Damon Lindelof's work. It sucks. I've read Tom King's work. It also sucks. So that's 2 out of 3, not good. But I don't know. I just like it's one of those things I'm just not excited for. I just can't. I can't. Unless like a trailer comes out and absolutely blows me away, I'm just like, eh.
Yeah. Well, he was also he's one of the former or current DC actors who's also in that Netflix movie The Rip. We talked about Sasha Calle the other day, the former Supergirl from The Flash, being in that movie. Kyle Chandler's also in that movie. I don't know if you're gonna be, getting any Emmys talks around Lanterns just yet. We gotta wait for the show to come out first. But yeah, let's move on. We got a couple of more quick hits from DC before we get to all the James Gunn stuff. Hamish Linklater, the voice of Batman in Batman the Caped Crusader, has teased that season 2 is currently expected to come out this year, John, 2026. Are you any more interested in this season 2 than you were in season 1?
I'm curious about it because me and Bridget reviewed this back in 2024. Neither of us were a fan of it. We did not care for it. Both of us were. It was like a long, grueling process, and very few episodes were memorable, let alone engaging or well done. Even though it had like everything going for it, it just did not. It just didn't hold a candle to anything that like what was done before in terms of Batman in animation, especially Batman the Animated Series. Like I like what the idea surrounding it's like, oh, it takes place in the past, it's got this, but I feel like there was a lot of character assassination. The animation was not all that great, and the storylines were just not very good. Um, you know, I hope season 2 is good. We do have Joker, and the way that they're showcasing him is very different, so that's something. I hope it's better. I'm not expecting a lot, but I'll still watch it to see how it's
Well, as you can
it's
see in
a shame that
the
it
chat
because
here, yeah.
I think it
Mixed
like again had a
opinions.
lot going for it and it just dropped the ball majorly.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, there was a lot of mixed reception, opinions and reactions to the show. So,
I mean, the fact that they
yeah.
went the entire first season without doing Joker is definitely something. So that's no, it's no, he's not. He was shown at the end of the first season, and he's a dude.
But we do get an Oswalda, was it the penguin in the show?
Oh yeah, fucking gender bent penguin, which made no fucking sense and was pointless. And
I remember Stacy was like, for DC Alfred fan cast potentially, she was like, if it's gonna be a female Alfred, I would like to see Alfreda as being played by, and then she was like giving I'm like, okay.
And it's
I don't think
oh,
anybody's gonna be
God.
happy for that. Because it felt a little unnecessary, but anyway, it's fine. It's an animated show. I'll give it like it's freedom to do what they need to do. It doesn't need to be the definitive anything.
Speaking of animated stuff,
yeah,
we do have the last bit of quick hits, which is Blue Beetle's next edition installment of his future. But there is the idea that Blue Beetle 2 will happen. I mean, the animated series has kind of been confirmed, kind of sorta, but we don't know if that's like actually I don't know if that's like actually like cuz I don't think James Gunn has confirmed it. So
well, it's definitely not like public. It's yeah, he's not mentioned it publicly, but Belisa Escobedo, who played the sister of Jaime Reyes in the movie, was recently asked about it. She's on NBC's Happy Place show, and so she was promoting season 2, and she was saying, "Oh, absolutely, that's totally in the works, and in talks. So hopefully that's happening soon." And this was in reference to a Blue Beetle sequel, and she said, "I'm gonna see Sholo soon. We're gonna do a Comic-Con together." Now, again, she doesn't really specify whether it's meant to be like a live action sequel or the animated thing. Even the animated show from what I remember, was it 100% confirmed? Because I don't know if that's like official confirmed. Because, but like Angel Manuel Soto, who directed the original DCU Blue Beetle movie, the DCEU Blue Beetle movie, of course, every time he's been asked about this, he was on a tour. While he was being interviewed by the Direct for his new movie, The Wrecking Crew, and he also got asked the same thing, like what about bringing Jaime Reyes into the DCU? James Gunn obviously has mentioned that he loves the character. And Angel said, yeah, there have been conversations, and that's all I can say. I mean, that's fair. Conversations have been happening. There's definitely, James Gunn has been very vocal about keeping Blue Beetle in the DCU. So good things are coming for Jaime Reyes and his family. So, I mean, John, ultimately,
Family.
cue the clip.
You don't turn your back on family.
I wouldn't mind seeing George Lopez back, by the way. I thought
George Lopez was one of the best parts.
He was
of the movie.
hilarious.
What the fuck you talking about, bro?
He's like, Batman's a fascist. I was like, yeah, that's...
Chalamet has said multiple times he is never going to do a comic book movie, so don't hold your breath on that one.
Yeah. Family. John, would you prefer to see the animated thing, or do you want to see a live action sequel?
I would prefer... Well, here's the thing. I would like to see, in terms of Joel Mordueña returning as Blue Beetle, I would have liked to have seen it in two projects that are now on the back burner. Which is, I would have liked to seen him in Booster Gold, like have Ted Kord be in this universe, but it's also like kind of like maybe the first season of Booster Gold is all about him trying to find Ted Kord, and and Jaime Reyes pops up to help him out because he wants to find the guy he technically took the name from. So there's that. I would say either do that or have him be in like a Teen Titans / Titans movie, and then pretty much have him established, and then do a rebooted remake, kind of new idea in regards to Blue Beetle in the DCU. So there's some differences there, and we can like essentially reignite the idea of this character, specifically this version of the character we've seen before, but in a new continuity. So
no,
that's my opinion.
I would just simply say I want to see a Blue Beetle sequel.
I would like eventually. Sequel, I think they need to establish this version first as a supporting character, and then like just to kind of like be like, okay, guys, this is a new version technically, not the one you've seen before, but here's this new version. And then now that he's established, boom, then you can do him in his own movie. Exactly, Blue and Gold, whatever.
The Blue and Gold would be great too. Yeah, and if you want to do if you want to do a Booster Gold show, you can just introduce Blue Beetle in there and then give him his own sequel after. So that's another way of doing it. But yeah, I still thought the first Blue Beetle movie was pretty good. It wasn't anything revolutionary, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But good. Hey, let's move on from the quick hits to John. It's that time. Let's talk about what did Gunn say. Ring ding ding. The latest James Gunn updates, of course. The co-CEO of DC Studios usually hops on threads between, writing scripts and approving trailers and final cuts or first cuts of movies, as well as, occasionally he's working on storyboards, which he seems to be doing right now, and, preparing to go into production on Man of Tomorrow. So James Gunn had a ton, and I mean ton, of updates with regards to the entirety of the DCU slate. If you guys weren't able to follow, on social media, but I think it was on Threads that he did this Q&A, and he just had a bunch of time on his hand. He started answering people's questions. People had follow-up questions, and he ended up giving us quite a lot more information that usually we would even get in like a Comic-Con, for example. So the way we're going to do this is divide it up into a number of topics. So I'm just going to give you guys a rundown of how we're going to break this up, because there was so much to get into. So James Gunn talked about Batman. That's where we'll start. Just Batman in general. So I'm not just talking about Batman Brave and the Bold and the Batman. I'm talking about Batman as a character. So we'll talk about everything he said there. Then we'll talk about Man of Tomorrow, all the Man of Tomorrow updates that he had that do include some Batman in there and Wonder Woman, but as well as, other characters we might get to see. So after we'll talk about the mystery Man of Tomorrow female character. James Gunn finally addressed that, the idea behind it, whether it's actually true that it will be Wonder Woman, or if not, then who else could it be? And there was another report today from Nexus Point News telling us, that maybe we know who that character is that they're casting as that mystery female character in Man of Tomorrow. So we'll talk about it, and then we'll get into the upcoming slate, because James Gunn did give us some hints as to what else is coming up down the road beyond the official projects like, Supergirl, Clayface, Lanterns that we're going to talk about. And then we will get into some dynamic duo updates. There's some Clayface updates. And then after that, there's some other general questions like the Grant Gustin Flash situation that if you guys have been on social media, you know what I'm talking about. Grant Gustin recently colored his hair blonde, and everybody's going crazy that maybe he's doing it so he can play the Flash in the DCU. James Gunn was asked about it. He gave us more insight into that. So again, like I mentioned, we'll start off with the Batman updates, Man of Tomorrow, then the mystery Man of Tomorrow female character, the upcoming slate, dynamic duo Clayface, and then we'll get into the rest of the updates. So without further ado, John,
Yes.
we shall start with those Batman updates, shall we? Let's dive into the first of those. This was essentially about James Gunn, not wanting to release the two Batman movies in the same year, because he was asked, like, look, hey James, around what time this year do you think it will be likely that we see a Brave and the Bold update? And to this, James Gunn responded, I'm dependent on when there's an actionable script ready, so there is no way of me guessing this. Also, frankly, we are well into Batman 2, and I wouldn't want to cloud the Batsphere until after that. And to this, if you go to the next one, because we can kind of like bunch these together and then react to them, some people, you can imagine, were like, well, okay, I understand that, like, I understand what you mean, but aren't you undervaluing, like Batman and stuff? So to that, James Gunn was just, again, responding to people, and he was saying, look, and actually not this one, can you go to the other update, because I've kind of like organized this a little bit differently, because people were wondering, well, if you're not going to get this update anytime soon, then how soon can we expect to get an update with Batman Brave and the Bold? And he was just, again, saying it's all about the script and how soon the script might be done, because it's just hard to tell whether it's going to be the next draft or it might take you a year, which I understand, because somebody mentioned in the chat, in the threads, that you could work on 2 acts of the movie and get those done and then just be stuck on the 3rd act for a year. And James Gunn was like, yeah, that's very possible. And altogether, he was just saying it just depends on when the script is going to be ready. And then if you go to the next thing for a moment, John, James Gunn did kind of hint at the idea, and we have sort of heard this before, that, look, while Batman and Superman are incredibly important to the DCU, James Gunn is very much not into the idea of releasing 2 Batman movies in the same year. And he's also hinting by saying that, look, it might take us a while to figure this out, that the Batman script, has been retooled a couple of times from what we know from the past year. And it seems like they're still not quite getting it right. And I don't know, John, if this means we're closer to where Blade ended up, or if this is just a matter of they went in a certain creative direction, it didn't work out, they changed tact, maybe they changed tact twice, and we know they changed the writer from the reports that were coming out. Overall, it seems like from all of this, what's for certain with regards to the Batman character, specifically the Batman Brave and the Bold, one, James Gunn does not want to release 2 Batman movies in the same year. So he's saying we're not going to get Brave and the Bold next year, which I wouldn't imagine you would, considering if they haven't started pre-production on it, there's no way it would release in 2027. So the earliest we're talking about is potentially 2028, if not 2029. And then he's saying from the sounds of it, maybe he's just trying to downplay it, but it doesn't look like they're anywhere near done with the Batman script for Brave and the Bold. But if you go to the next page one time, just to kind of wrap up this part of the conversation, somebody did ask James Gunn, well, me and my girlfriend agree a Batarang bouncing off at least 3 heads and Batman catching it would be peak. And Gunn was like, well, of all the requests that I've gone, this is a more reasonable one. Maybe I can follow through on that. Somebody even went and, I guess, put one of these together. Is that from an actual movie? Am I missing something? Is that a fan film? I don't know where that GIF is coming from.
I think this is from. Is this from Batman Returns? Or is this fucking AI?
Feels like
a deleted scene.
It's either AI or it's like a fan film. I don't know. I can't tell.
This looks like Burton though. Like
it starts off with a real shot. I don't remember the rest. The rest of this does not look real. Anyway, somebody tell us that that's true. But anyway, John, your reaction to the idea, because James going to basically look, the TLDR of it is this. We're not getting Brave and the Bold next year, which I think was obvious. So the earliest is 2028, 2029, possibly later. And he's not willing to commit to any timeline because they haven't finished the script. So he's not even telling us like, oh, expect a green light in June this year. He just doesn't know. And clearly, I think he's sort of almost tired of talking about this because you could see he's irked a little bit in some of his comments. Like he doesn't want to. He's like, to be frank, the Batman Part 2 is going really well, and I don't want to mess with that. But at the same time, you got to wonder, like, are they having trouble figuring out Batman? Is this DC Studios Blade? Is this their mountain that they can't seem to be able to climb? Like, where do you stand on this, John? Like, are you starting to get worried a little bit about Brave and the Bold? Because I feel like it's been a while, and again, while there isn't any direct evidence that they've screwed this up or they just can't crack the code, you switch writers twice. It takes you longer to figure it out. I mean, on the heels of Matt Reeves taking 5 years to make a sequel, are we gonna need to wait like till I don't know, like 2030 for a Batman in the DCU?
That's entirely possible because, it seems as though that it's just like, I don't know. It's so weird to me that if this was any other character, I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. But like the fact that this is Batman, motherfucking Batman. Exactly. We have Batman for decades. And like with all this other shit, it's just like, it's so weird to me that you've had this character. There have been so many interpretations, so many adaptations across TV and movies and fucking like soundtracks and like fucking rock operas and musicals and like a million billion different things. And in the year of our Lord 2026, you can't figure out guy who dresses like Bat and beats people up. Like, that is like the most surface level way of interpreting the character. But it's just like, how can you not figure that out? It's like it's exactly like Marvel being like, guy who kills vampires. How the fuck is it so hard to figure that out? You have a long line, a very, very long line of wannabe writers that would fucking commit genocide to fucking even write one word of a Batman script. Like, people aching to do it, and I think could do it very well, and you're like, I can't figure this out. I'm, I've been on forums, I've been in Discord servers, I've been on websites, I've been in so many people with fucking phenomenally amazing ideas. People on YouTube, fucking Nando V Movies, Troy Oboyo 17. You have so many fucking people that are itching to like, oh, I'd love to write a Batman movie. Fucking Austin McConnell. There's so many people that would fucking just would be on hands and knees to make a Batman script. Anybody. And it's just like, it's so mind-boggling that a guy who is this successful in the superhero realm, whether you want to agree with it or not, the man has made money, the man has been liked by audiences and critics. Say what you fucking will, he's successful. And he can't figure out one of the most popular superheroes of all time, top two at the very least. Spider-Man and Batman are the most popular superheroes of all time, and you for some reason can't figure that out, in addition to the fact that there is over 80 years of history to pull from. So many different interpretations, so many different adaptations, so many different things you can do with this amazing character, and for some reason you're like, I don't know what to do. What the fuck do you mean you don't know what to do? You had a plan. You had a plan. Like, unlike Kathleen Kennedy, James Gunn had a plan. And for some reason, you're like, it's difficult. Like, exactly, Sam Raimi. Like, he literally just said, it's like, the main problem with superhero movies, people don't ask me enough. People don't ask me enough. Like, why are you fucking Sam Raimi do Batman? That man has been itching to make a Batman movie for, like, almost 4 decades. Like, get Sam Raimi to fucking direct it. Not write it, because he doesn't usually write his own projects, but fucking get, like, anybody to fucking write that shit. Like, I remember John Logan was rumored. Fucking get him to write it. He's gonna be doing the Michael movie. He did it already. And Antoine Fuqua directing. By the way, another great director who could definitely do a Batman movie. He would be phenomenal too. But it's just like, it's so weird to me. You're getting all of the wrong people to do this. It's like James Gunn is like, I can't figure it out. Whatever bumfuck writer's like, I can't figure it out. Andy Muschietti is like, I don't know. I'm going to do like 3 other movies in the meantime. And even though it's literally the dream of every fucking filmmaker to make a Batman movie, and you're treating it like you don't care. And it's just like all these people are, it's just so strange to me. Like, just help me figure it out. That's the thing that's like, I just want to figure it out. Like, that's why we're here. We're asking you these questions, because it's just so strange to me that it's so different. Like, if you want to if this was Ambush Bug, or like Plastic Man, even, or like a really weird character, I'd be like, okay, sure, I can understand that. What direction do you take with that? Comedy's very hard to pull off, so that's something. But it's Batman. He's been done 1 billion times in 1 billion different ways, and you could still find new ways to do it, and you're like, I can't figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are suggesting all the names like Sam Raimi, the Duffer Brothers, Edgar Wright. I mean, Duffer Brothers are going to be over at Paramount unless Paramount ends up buying Warner Brothers. Not likely going to happen. But look, here's something that I wanted to mention quickly. I don't know if you talked about this, Sean. I've kind of noticed a bit of a pattern to this. Because like you said, something that you said kind of stuck with me just now. And then we'll talk about Man of Tomorrow in a minute after this. But with regards to Batman, right? And then even Wonder Woman to a certain degree. But we're talking about Batman for the moment. So you mentioned that, like, somehow James Gunn can't figure it out of all the things he's done and stuff. James Gunn originally had like every project, like he's clearly got a very specific plan for Superman, right? Much like Zack Snyder did. Zack Snyder had a very specific arc of, we're gonna, have Superman go down this, like, we're gonna deconstruct Superman. He's gonna have the whole death of Superman arc, and then hope is born from the loss. Like, at least, like, regardless of the execution and everything that went on that was outside of his control, Zack Snyder knew what he was doing, and he clearly was wanting to do that with Superman. Whether he understood Superman or not is another thing. And here's how I feel like that would connect here is, and again, I'm sort of speculating here, but hear me out. Most projects so far that have either gotten a green light or are projects that James Gunn is like saying that those are his things, whether it's Creature Commandos, Superman, now Man of Tomorrow, Peacemaker Season 2, these are all projects where those weren't things that, those were things that he wrote himself and had ideas for, either during or before he got the job of co-CEO, or that's what he used to. That's what David Zaslav was sold on, the idea that he could be the co-CEO. Like, the Superman idea he was pitching already. He had already written
Zack
Creature
Snyder
Commandos.
Didn't write any of his projects. The people that wrote his projects were David S. Goyer and Chris Terrio. Let's just get that perfectly good. He did have an idea. He did write drew storyboards, and wrote story ideas for where other writers.
So he gets story credit, ideas.
Like, he himself did not write the scripts. Said what you will about Snyder. God knows we all have at this point a very low hanging fruit. But I will always defend no matter what, even if it's a person I don't really, for his movies, I don't really care for that much. He did not write any of his movies. I don't think he has written. He is purely a director's director. He has not written anything. Maybe he's had storyboards. Maybe he's had like outlines, treatments, maybe at the most.
Yeah, but he doesn't write his own movies.
His own scripts, specifically screenplays. He has not written, as far as I know.
Yeah, but the point regarding James Gunn, I mentioned a lot of those projects that he's directed and written, like those were things that are like his stuff. Those were his ideas as a writer. Is James Gunn, I think, first and foremost, is a writer. He's a writer-director. He's more of an auteur in that sense.
Yes.
And then all of those projects have come to pass or in the production phase, like Man of Tomorrow is in pre-production. But beyond that, everything that it seems like either he initiated or would be ideas like where he is in a Kevin Feige-esque position where he's got a vision for this new DCU, and therefore out of that new vision is born the idea of a movie or a TV show. Booster Gold, Paradise Lost, Waller, The Authority. I feel like I'm missing one or two, but those are 4 of the 10 projects that they had initially announced that are now either shelved or collecting dust or in some kind of, development limbo somewhere in the halls of DC Studios. And then the ones that have been greenlit or moving forward, we know the Supergirl idea was something that got pitched to him by Ana Negreira, that he loved it so much that it wasn't going to be coming this early in the DCU, but he decided to greenlight it because he loved the idea. But it's not something that he, originated as a studio executive. I mentioned Waller, by the way, but thank you, MTG, for bringing that up. And then Clayface is another one where we now know that Mike Flanagan had an idea for Clayface, the script and or whatever stage it was in, that actually predates the DC Studios and DCU entirely. So both of those things, and then Lanterns, we remember the current Lantern show sort of traces its history back all the way to even before the DCU existed. They've retooled it a lot, so I don't know how much has to do with James Gunn's grandiose vision or not. We'll find out. But basically, John, I was just trying to get at the idea that it doesn't seem like Batman and Wonder Woman were like these big priorities. Maybe because he just didn't have any ideas, and maybe as a studio executive, if you don't have much to work off of, he's only been there for a few years, and there's only one theatrical movie to work with, and one live action and one animated show in terms of results so far. Is this showing a weakness of James Gunn? Does this mean he's gonna have more of a Kathleen Kennedy track record 5 years down the line than a Kevin Feige track record? Like, that's because there are some signs here. Like, and you can't screw up Batman, or you can't take forever to figure out Batman. I mean, and I get his point that we're getting the Batman too, so it's not like we're gonna be lacking for Batman, but I do worry that this larger cinematic universe he's building, you can't let Batman sit on the sidelines for too long, because it's not even about the Batman character being involved. It's about everything else that the Batman character interacts with, because it's not just Gotham City. Batman has connections to many other parts of the DC universe traditionally. So by keeping him out of the cinematic universe, you're sort of also like not able to address those other connections that he has. Not to mention, if you're going to get to a Justice League movie eventually, you do need that, and then also for Wonder Woman, as another vassal of that whole argument, I think it would also apply. But let's keep on going, because James Gunn did give us a lot of updates regarding Man of Tomorrow. And speaking of Batman and Wonder Woman, he simply just said, look, all of these rumors for Batman and Wonder Woman auditions are false. We have not held auditions at the end of 2025, which is what the person was asking him. And so he simply just debunked it. And then a follow-up question was, would you like to throw throw water on the theory that they're both in the movie in some capacity, as in maybe if they're not in there as their hero selves, maybe you see their civilian alter egos like Bruce Wayne or Diana Prince, or maybe they just get some mentioned in there. That was a rumor for a while. And James Gunn said, yep, there's no truth to the idea that we're even going to get a mention of Batman or Wonder Woman in Man of Tomorrow. So there's that. Now we know that both of those characters will not be in the movie in any shape whatsoever. He's confirmed that there's no Batman, Wonder Woman, no auditions have happened. They're not casting them anytime soon is what the implication would be. They're not even going to get a mention in the movie. And then if you go to the next thing here, Actually, you're right there. James Gunn was asked, "Well, what about that mystery character? That are you going to be casting stuff? Are there any other roles being cast for Man of Tomorrow?" And he was like, "Look, the big news was Brainiac, and most other sizable roles are characters we've already seen or met. Smaller roles are being casted now, so it doesn't look like we're going to be getting any more Justice Leaguers in Man of Tomorrow. Like the caliber of characters that Wonder Woman and Batman would be. So your thoughts on this? He's basically said all of those rumors about those auditions are false. No Batman, no Wonder Woman.
I mean, I could have told you that. It's just it just I feel like it's kind of obvious that that we weren't going to be getting Wonder Woman, we weren't going to be getting Batman. It just seemed a bit ridiculous that we're going to be getting these huge characters, and no. I mean, just because we got Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific and Hawkgirl in the first Superman movie doesn't mean we were going to get all these other more famous people in this because David Zaslav named them as part of the pillars of the DCU. So.
Well, speaking of the mystery casting stuff, it all started from this mystery female character that was being casted in the movie. And that's where the rumors started spreading that, are they casting Wonder Woman? We've all been talking about it could be just Big Barda, it could be a few other things. Well, James Gunn was asked about this, and he simply addressed like the idea that, hey, is this gonna be Wonder Woman? Like, is that what about that rumor? And he was like, nope, we are, but he did say, while he denied that it was Wonder Woman that they were casting, he said, look, we are currently casting a female character in Man of Tomorrow. My only guess is scoopers are taking a stab at guessing that's Wonder Woman. So James Gunn's still saying it's not Wonder Woman, but they are casting a female character in Man of Tomorrow. Now, again, he doesn't say it's a meta-human character. He doesn't say it's a superpowered character, John. But there was a report today from Nexus Point News, and we can kind of look at that because while James Gunn did say they are casting a female character, now that he has basically thrown water all over the idea that it's actually Wonder Woman, if you go to the comicbookmovie.com article, they were referencing a report from Nexus Point News, which is suggesting that this mystery character is going to be Maxima. And that's going to be the secondary antagonist of the movie. And then perhaps during the movie, they will eventually, recognize the error of their ways and join up with Superman and whoever else is on Superman's side, maybe Lex Luthor and whatever. Your thoughts on this?
Essentially, what a lot of people are saying is like it's going to be an adaptation of Superman Panic in the Sky, which was a 1992 crossover event with, Superman being the proponent figure where Maxima and Brainiac show up. So,
I mean, do you know much about the character Maxima? Because she's not really one that a lot of people would know.
I know her mainly from Superman the Animated Series, like that version of the character. How essentially she, I don't know how accurate it is to the comics, but I know in the animated series it was kind of played for laughs, where she was like, I want to marry the world's strongest hero, and she wants to marry Superman, and so that she can like give birth to like her an
Super
amazing
babies.
lineage and all that shit on
I'm gonna have your super babies, Superman.
and so on her world, I forget what her alien world is called, but it was essentially that, and very, very kind of more amusing, but it's definitely so
Brainiac with a
essentially
mustache.
she's kind of a villain, but not in like a villainous kind of way, not like Brainiac. So yeah.
I mean, it could also be that mystery character could simply be like Jenga Victory saying Lana Lang or Lucy Lang. That feels like a much more likely scenario. Ultimately, I feel like, because we're just assuming
I'm
it's
with
a
everyone else.
superhero.
Now I want to see Brainiac with a mustache, with a Salvador Dali mustache.
Do you think Lars Ettinger can pull that mustache off? Can he be a mustache twirling villain?
Absolutely. Hell yeah. But to be fair, like I'm on the fence about it. Like Maxima, if she does have a role, if that is the character they're trying to cast, then I think that she should have a very small role, like maybe her world was the one that was like taken by Brainiac, so she and her world was destroyed because of that, and so she comes to Earth to be like, hey, Superman, I heard you wanted a super harem. Well, that's what your dad said, so like, I'm here to collect. And she's like, hey, my world's dead, can you like breed me, daddy? And so they're like, okay, let's do that. And then that's like a minor like subplot, but then Brainiac then comes in and she like teams up with Superman and they fight him. But I would want it to be like a minor subplot, because Brainiac, this is the first, if this really goes through, this is the first time that Brainiac would ever be like portrayed in live action on the big screen. So you gotta give him all the time in the world. So
I'm just can you punk rock me? I'm actually super. I can imagine like Lex Luthor's new monkey bots are like the hashtags will be hashtag breed me daddy, because then that's like a whole cult of like, yes, we will be part of your harem, Superman. Daddy. It's just like, oh my god.
And I mean, to be fair, we know that Superman's packing.
There's the shot right there. Now I'll zoom into this.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there
bulge, but
I'm just like, I don't know. Do we need that? Like, because it's sort of like, what function does it serve other than to highlight the fact that Superman's got some padding there potentially to make this?
I mean,
movie a little.
Anyway, let's not go through the entire clip. We're already.
I sorry. You just like you totally just broke me with the whole breed me daddy thing. I was like, okay. It's like the movie, like I could see it happening, considering where they were going with like the whole, like trolls, and I could totally see it, like, like the whole I'll be a part of your harem, like I heard the Kryptonians are into that kind of thing, like it's yes, we will zoom in on the bulge in the Man of Tomorrow behind the scenes photos. You know what? Lobo could certainly do a job if Maxima is looking for a baby daddy. I'm sure that's possible. Anyway, we'll see. I mean, it could be Maxima, it could be it could be Lucy Lane, it could be Lana Lang. I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways they can go with this. I think people are still sort of making potentially the wrong assumption that just because there's a mystery female character that it's going to be another meta-human. It could just be a significant non-meta-human character. So yeah, but moving beyond just the updates that we got for Man of Tomorrow, let's move on to talking about some updates for Dynamic Duo, because James Gunn confirmed now that the Dynamic Duo series is it's actually, I think you're on the wrong one here, John. I think we're gonna talk about the DCU canon of Dynamic Duo.
Hang on. All right. Hang on a sec. Dude, there were so many goddamn links.
I know.
Right?
I know. It's the two. So there's two updates regarding Dynamic Duo. So James Gunn basically confirmed that Dynamic Duo is not part of the DCU, and he was also saying that, look, things are going well. Like, production on Dynamic Duo is going well, because people are asking him about, like, well, is basically the question that was posed to him in the beginning of that little part of the Q&A was, is it true that they're rewriting Dynamic Duo to fit it into the DCU continuity? Because recently we found out that Mr. Miracle is, now, well, it's officially part of the DCU continuity. They've even cast Darkseid and, of course, Big Barda, as well as Mr. Miracle for it, which kind of took Big Barda as like the mystery character in Man of Tomorrow out of the picture. Who knows? I mean, maybe not entirely. But anyway, the point is, somebody was wondering, well, is Dynamic Duo going to be going through the same process? Because we've also seen Clayface got a slight rewrite so that they could make it fit into the continuity of the DCU and what they have plans for. So people are wondering about the Dynamic Duo and the same, and he was saying, nope, they're not rewriting it to be a part of the DC continuity, implying basically that, it's going to be its own thing. Dynamic Duo is going to be its own standalone project. And then somebody was asking, well, how is it going? Like, because we know we're getting Dynamic Duo in 2028, right? So yep. James Gunn was saying, well, it's going really, really well. I mean, not much, but those three words are a ringing endorsement of a project that seems to have been blessed from the beginning. John, your thoughts on this?
Good. I'm excited for it. Looks interesting. It looks like it'll be unique, so I'm excited for it.
Yep. And then, by the way, Enterprising saying he called the whole Panic in the Sky as a potential
All
inspiration.
right. Fucking stop
for
stroking
Man
your
of
dick
Tomorrow.
on camera.
So,
Jesus fucking Christ. Shit. We got it. Okay.
We're not that kind of a show. But okay.
Enterprising over here got a fucking this big old swinging dick getting up in here.
But
right.
okay. Let's talk about Clayface, because I mentioned that was going to be the next thing after Dynamic Duo. That, of course, is not the next movie, but the movie after the next movie coming up on the DCU slate, and it's going to be releasing in September this year. Speaking of which, James Gunn was being asked, like, well, have you seen any of this movie yet? Because we know it's in post-production now, and he was asked, like, are we going to get a trailer for Clayface? Because obviously Supergirl comes out in June, we got a trailer for it in December. Now Clayface comes out in September, so you'd imagine that if you're kind of looking at a similar timeline, that we should expect a trailer maybe by February, maybe by March at the latest. So it's natural for people to wonder if we're going to get a trailer for Clayface anytime soon. Maybe in a couple of months. And James Gunn said, no, I haven't even seen the film yet, because James is still in the first cut. When he says James, I think I'm forgetting, what's the full name of
James Watkins.
James Watkins. So James Watkins is the one directing, and therefore he's in post-production now in Clayface. But it looks like they haven't even finished their first cut. Now, of course, people were then asking, wait, so you don't get to see it until at least the first cut? Like, well, because I thought you were the studio head. Can't you just walk? Basically, people are like, I'm sure wondering, like, can't you just walk in the door and look at what they're working on? Now, if you go to the next thing here, John, James Gunn did address how this whole process works. And people were asking, have you seen the assembly cut? Because the assembly cut is where they just simply put all the pieces together. It's usually like 6 hours, 8 hours long or whatever.
Essentially.
And
there's different ways. Okay, so rundown, and Dan, please tell me if I'm wrong about this, but this was how I remember it from school. I could be misremembering. But from what I know is rough cut, where it's simply everything thrown on a timeline. That's literally, it's just like everything you have outside of multiple takes is thrown onto a timeline. It doesn't even have finished VFX and stuff like that. Assembly cut is essentially, if there is VFX, those are finished, and then there is it is assembled as sort of this is generally where it's gonna go, and then after that is for the most part a director's cut, and then the producer's cut, which is the thing that makes it to the movie, that's the thing that's shown in theaters, is the producer's cut, with the exception Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, but we don't talk about that. So, I mean, and I know that you're kind of simplifying it, but because there's more nuance to it, like in the sense that there's so much,
what's chopped away, it's a collaboration.
If we get into that, it's going to be a 10-hour long stream. So
no, absolutely, and it differs too, because depending on what's in the contract for the director that you're working with,
contracts,
studio.
If it's independent, a studio.
And then there's always the director's cut situation.
It depends on the genre, because obviously an assembly cut of a romance film is going to be different from an action movie, which is going to be different from a science fiction movie. So there's also that as well.
I think a better analogy would be for in terms of what an assembly cut looks like is you have all the pieces before you start chopping away at it to make it a good runtime.
It's essentially a rough cut, but it's slightly more polished, essentially.
Yeah, and then so like you said, the VFX shots usually are not completed. You might have previs shots as stand-ins for actual shots of or you might have in progress VFX shots. Basically, you have a lot, and then color grading and all. So it looks rough. It's not really. It doesn't look mostly like the way that you expect it to look. Like in some instances, instead of having a finished VFX shot, you might just be seeing Supergirl, for example, fighting aliens in front of a blue screen set, because they haven't gotten around to getting the delivery or taking delivery of the final version of that VFX shot, stuff like that. So James Gunn was saying, look, he doesn't, as a studio executive in this case, and not the director, he does not get to see that version of the cut. I mean, I'm sure he could if he really wanted to, but essentially the director always gets their first cut, which takes place over 11 or 12 weeks, James Gunn saying, so basically around 3 months. Now, I believe Clayface finished filming a month or two ago, so Am I right about that? I feel like they finished filming late last year. Like I want to say November, December. So that would mean they might not be ready with that first cut, until February at the earliest. Um, and James Gunn was saying that's when the producers get to see it, and then they get to provide their notes, and then eventually if there's a conflict in terms of like what they can agree on, the unless the director has final cut, the producers will get their way, right? So James Gunn could say, I hear what you're trying to go with. I just think we should flip these two scenes around and then change the order in which they come in. And ultimately, what James Gunn says will go unless the director has the final cut. Which, I mean, like, there's very few people in this industry that have final cut on their movies. Like Tarantino has, Nolan has. I don't even know if Denis Villeneuve has final cut on his movies, but like there's very few people.
I can't imagine. I like obviously like something like Prisoners. He probably did, maybe Dune, but obviously he definitely will not have final cut on the upcoming James Bond movie he's directing. But that's been a thing since Doctor No. So it's
like the Broccoli's, or like now Amazon will always like have the final cut on it. Yeah. I mean, Scorsese has final cut, but like, yeah, again, but it's very few people like who get it, very few directors. But that being said, again, the DGA, the Directors Guild of America, headed by Sir President Christopher Nolan, they do have some things built into the directors' contracts that protect their creative, autonomy, as it were. So James Gunn then addressed it in a little more detail if you go to the next thing here, and this is again all in context of why we're not getting a Clayface trailer anytime soon, because it is a James Watkins movie and not one that's directed by James Gunn. James Gunn is just the producer, the studio head. So somebody was asking, are you usually hands off in this process as a producer if it's not your film, that not something you're directing? And James Gunn was just again kind of like trying to like give us more of an insight into how Hollywood works. And so continuing on that track, he was saying producers are always hands off during the director's cut. So again, this is not talking about the director's cut as in like, Zack Snyder's director's cut of the Justice League. This is about one of those, like that first cut where they go from assembly cut and they've shaved off a bunch of stuff and they've got it down to a runtime. And James Watkins in this case would bring that cut to James Gunn and say, this is the version of movie I think works best based on all the pieces that we had. What do you think? And then at that point, James Gunn would be able to kind of give his, notes or say like, maybe we should change this up. This isn't working. But up until then, James Gunn said, not only is that the best way, sorry, if you could scroll up there, John. He was saying not only is that the best way to
responses, so I wanted to highlight.
Yeah. So he was saying not only is it the best way to do it, but it's also a DGA thing. So as I mentioned, there are some protections built into the contracts of directors as part of their union that they get that level of control, and the producers don't get to interfere and change things up, until a certain stage in the process. So James Gunn basically, and Peter Safran for that matter, they won't get to see Clayface until that first, cut is ready. And it looks like, again, I don't remember. So one of you guys tell us in the chat. I feel like Clayface finished filming in November or December. Like we talked about it on the show.
Around there, yeah. It did finish filming around, I think it was late October, actually, maybe early November. Where it
it was early November. That's what I see here. So if you look at the 11 to 12 week timeline, let's kind of like figure out let's do some math. So if it finished in early November, then 12 weeks from early November would put us at around early February, end of January is when the first cut should be ready by. Right. And that's when James Gunn and Peter Safran will get to see the movie for the first time. And, and then from there, I guess we should expect a timeline for a trailer. Now, with a movie
if I
like
were to
Clayface,
take a shot, maybe like around Valentine's Day, like I think that's a good measure of like a specific day that people can have in mind. Obviously, could be before, could be later, but I think that's a good like shot in the dark of like when maybe that James Gunn will just see the cut of the movie.
Yeah, but even like exactly. So that will be something where he's not talking about that's when a trailer comes out. That's when James Gunn gets to see the movie for the first time.
Say that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like you said, and to that end, if I think for a movie the scale of Clayface, because as it is a much smaller movie, it's got a smaller budget. It's not meant to be a big summer blockbuster. I don't think they're gonna put a trailer out 6 months in advance. I feel like we're more likely to get a trailer for Clayface no earlier than March, potentially as late as May. because they don't, because it's also the other thing around it is they're gonna want to put all the marketing efforts behind Supergirl and put that front and center, because that has a uphill battle already with all the other movies coming out around it in the summer of this year, whether it's Toy Story or Spider-Man Brand New Day and all those other films. So Supergirl will get the spotlight. So it's also very possible there is a scenario where I don't think we get to see a first Clayface trailer until after Supergirl comes out. Or if we do get a first trailer, I don't think we're gonna get it until maybe, like I said, at somewhere between March and May, and then they sort of just, keep it pretty low key for Clayface until after Supergirl has come out, and then they start promoting it really, because the movie is not as big, so they're not going to spend as much money marketing it. It's not as expensive of a movie. I don't think it's going to play as much into the overall arcing story of the DCU's Phase 1 Gods and Monsters, and then they don't want to like cannibalize their own audience or confuse their audience by advertising that Clayface so prominently while they're still trying to build the hype up around Supergirl. So I wouldn't expect us to get any trailer or poster for Clayface up until, like I said, March to May. That being said, James Gunn did address somebody asking, like, is it still on schedule to come out in September? Because some people were like, well, if it's taking this long to get to the first cut, and then, does that mean, is this movie going to shift release dates? Which we've sort of gotten used to seeing that happen a lot recently with everything from the pandemic to the VFX backlog to the strikes and everything that's happened. Movies seem to get delayed more now than they used to in the past. So James Gunn was saying, look, we're not delaying the movie. It's still very much on track to come out this year. And so expect Clayface to release on its expected release date, which is September 11th. And that's not going to change. So all together, the TLDR of Clayface is, it's going to come out on its expected release date in September this year. James Gunn has not seen the first cut of the movie. The first cut, we just kind of backdated it from when Clayface finished filming, and James Gunn said it takes around 12 weeks for them to get to that first cut, being ready for the producers to look at, aka James Gunn, Peter Safran. So we expect that to be, early to mid-February, like John was saying. And then, John, it doesn't look like, based on that timeline, that we would get the trailer anytime before at least March, and then the movie doesn't come out till September, so there's not going to be any rush. And yeah, well, hopefully we'll get more news in a few weeks and maybe a couple of months time, and we'll keep an eye out for that. But yeah, and then but by that time, by March to May, Supergirl will probably be putting out its final trailer. So Enterprising making a good point there. Plus, also you can tag it along one of those other bigger summer movies and like get a lot more attention on it, right? So the summer movie season begins. You can release the trailer theatrically, get a lot more eyeballs behind it, or on it rather. But hey, we had a few other, kind of just a whole slew of other updates with the Q&A session James Gunn was doing on Threads. And one of the big things that James Gunn kept getting asked about is, John, I don't know if you saw this, but Grant Gustin just dyed his hair blonde recently. And that has sent the internet in a tizzy around the idea that maybe Grant Gustin is indeed playing the Flash in the DCU. Of course, he was the Flash in the TV show on the CW, and he's a popular fan cast, and he has made no secret of the fact that if he got the call, that he certainly would entertain the idea of being the DCU Flash if James Gunn gave him a call. So people were sort of like tongue-in-cheek asking him, is there a reason why Grant Gustin has dyed his hair blonde? And I'm sure James Gunn, being the busy man that he is, doesn't follow all of these social media telephone games. So he was like, how in the world would I know why Grant dyed his hair? Simply saying there is no correlation there, and certainly no causation. So John, your thoughts on the whole situation around Grant Gustin dyeing his hair? Does that mean he's playing the Flash again?
I don't think so. I think it's just people grasping at straws. Maybe the man dyed his hair for a different role, maybe because he's an adult who has fucking free will, and he wants to dye his hair blonde because he wants a little bit of difference in his life, okay? And I think that's it. I think people need to calm the fuck down. Would I like to see Grant Gustin back in the role. Sure, maybe in his own separate little, you know, continuity. Like he gets an Elseworld story where, he actually gets to actually be the Flash rather than, we are the Flash. So, because like, yeah, he pretty much had a decade on TV, but like 85% of that was dog shit. So like I'd love to see him in the role again, but just not in the DCU. Let someone else take it over. Honestly, I've talked about this many times. I think Wally West would be a much better like person to have because Barry Allen's been done to death. I don't think we've gotten a live action Wally West ever. So like,
Well,
have
I mean,
him.
in the TV show, but not right.
Honestly, I forgot. That was like
Well, they
Wally
had
only. Let's get that perfectly clear.
yeah. Well, they had
But
they almost got every version of Flash in that TV show over the 8-9 seasons that they ran it. But yeah, like you said, I don't think it was a definitive iteration. And yeah, Grant Gustin's been doing stage plays, right? Like I don't even know if he's doing screen acting these days. So yeah, just because he's dyeing his hair blonde doesn't mean I mean, he wasn't even a blonde Flash in the CW show. So yeah,
but they're making
I don't
it
think
more
he's doing
comic accurate, Dan.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing a Gone in 60 Seconds remake. But I don't think he could. I mean, could it be an Aquaman? Sure. I mean, you can Photoshop it and it could work well, but I don't think Grant Gustin. There's not. It's not even like, oh, Kumail Nanjiani randomly shows up to a DC red carpet for like Peacemaker. It's not even that. We can't even. There's no direct connection here. James Gunn probably has never met Grant Gustin in real life, and I certainly don't think James Gunn follows Grant Gustin on social media much to know that, oh yeah, he dyed his hair. And, no less the idea that he's doing it because he's going to play the Flash. But hey, in addition to all of these rumors, because people don't give up, John. The folks, us fans can be really, really insistent. We can insist and keep insisting. So, yeah, the rumors kept on spreading, and people keep asking James Gunn, is Grant Gustin not the Flash of the DCU, or will he not become the chances just increased because now he's got blonde hair and all, and well, James Gunn had to kind of come in and just pour more cold water all over it just earlier, a few hours ago, before we did we were live on the show, and he said, I keep being told people are going to riot over things. But I've yet to see a riot because some people are saying if you don't have Grant Gustin as the Flash, we will riot. And then James Gunn said, I love Grant, by the way. I don't know what Elliot has to do with anything because some people were also saying we don't want to see Elliot Page as the Flash. I'm sure Nelson was maybe Nelson was the one who started that rumor because I know Nelson wants to see Elliot Page as everything. I don't think he's watching live, but shout out to Nelson. John, your thoughts on this? Again, I feel like we're beating.
I mean, I think it's just
the dead horse at this point. Yeah,
delusion, and people need to calm down.
It's delusion is a hell of a drug, like Enterprising was saying. So, I would love to see Grant Gustin in the DCU. I think we might have even fan cast him at one point in something, but it's not anything that's currently in development. So yeah, rest assured it's not happening. In fact, James Gunn addressed the idea of all these rumors and how they usually get started and whether you want to believe them. And well, people were saying, are any of these DC rumors true? In general, it was a pretty, open-ended question. And James Gunn was like, probably. And basically, to summarize what he said is like, even a broken clock is right twice a day, saying if only because if you guess about enough stuff about something, it's likely to be true every once in a while, but I can't think of something true offhand. So he's saying none of the rumors out there, he can't think offhand if any of them are actually true. We've talked about this before. I mean, even, the people who tend to get things right more often than not, those scoopers get a lot wrong because that's why they're called scoopers and not journalists, John. Right? It's not, this is just, people just keep going down these rabbit holes and start believing things. And ultimately, I'm glad James Gunn at least somebody who's telling us otherwise, but doing it in a way that doesn't feel like he's putting us down. Because fans can be pretty sensitive about this. Like if you're really passionate about a project and you believe a rumor, not every filmmaker is going to be like, oh yeah, don't worry, that's not true, but thanks for playing. But like James Gunn is basically saying that. At least I take that as a positive, that James Gunn is not out there destroying people's dreams, but he's he's usually nice about this stuff, so that's good to see. But speaking of Man of Tomorrow, John, before we finish up, since that is the next movie up after Clayface and Supergirl, and the next James Gunn directed movie, we're gonna talk a little, because we talked about Man of Tomorrow earlier with all the what did Gunn say. He had a couple of more updates for Man of Tomorrow that I wanted to kind of dive into quick. He posted on his, I think on his Instagram page, a new behind the scenes set photo from Superman, I assume, because I don't think James Gunn is currently working on set for Man of Tomorrow, so I have to assume this is from the Fortress of Solitude set for Superman. And this is a look that we haven't really seen before, but you could see just again how much of the set was built like practically, and it looks like this is a set that we're going to see again. I would assume so. It wasn't destroyed in Superman. It still blows my mind, the scale of this set, because it's not like that's, you know, a fake little person walking in. That's David Cornsweet. David Cornsweet is the tallest, if not, well, aside from Tom Welling, the tallest Superman that we've ever gotten. So this is like a 6'3", 6'2" dude walking into a set that is probably 10 times his size. Like the scale of how big this thing was, you can just, it's all practical. It just impresses me, because I don't think in the DCEU version of the Fortress of Solitude they built anything this big that was entirely practical. It's like almost harkening back to the era of the Richard Donner Superman, where they built these huge Fortress of Solitude sets. To me, this just strikes awe, even though we've known about this for a while. What about you?
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's called a real set, classic Hollywood, says Caleb. Exactly. But speaking of Man of Tomorrow, John, it looks like we know who's going to be the director of photography for the movie. It's not Henry Brown. So, of course, Henry Brown is the one who worked with James Gunn for multiple movies, multiple Guardians movies, and, of course, also on Superman. But here, James Gunn has gone with somebody different. Sam McCurdy is now confirmed to be the cinematographer for Man of Tomorrow. And this is something that James Gunn himself confirmed on Threads, because he was asked about it as part of that whole Q&A. And originally this listing was on production list. We've talked about that before. That's where we first found out about like when the Batman Part 2 might start filming and stuff like that. It's like an industry insider thing, resource. And James Gunn basically confirmed it, saying, yep, Sam is our cinematographer. Are you surprised to see that Sam McCurdy is doing the cinematography here rather than, you know, bringing back Henry Brown, who's worked with before? Of course, with the Batman Part 2, we know Greg Fraser is not going to be there. So like, both of the movies coming out next year are being sequels to movies, or like indirect sequels to movies that have, you know, already, like the Batman and Superman. The directors will carry over, but the cinematographers will change. Do you care to speculate as to maybe why that might have happened? I mean, Sam McCurdy, by the way, worked on Shogun, Game of Thrones, so he's certainly no, you know, slouch, but it's not the guy that James Gunn has worked with for the last few of his films. So are you surprised?
Right. No, because he did say that Man of Tomorrow was going to be very different. He was going to say it's like less comic booky, less of that side. So like making it more of like it's interesting that he's going for more of a TV cinematographer, which will bring a very different look. So I think that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I'm not totally surprised, but I hope I mean, as much as I love Superman, the cinematography at times was a little wonky, so I hope this is still a good looking movie.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and even like I mentioned, Greg Fraser did the Mandalorian TV show, and so it's not like these days being a cinematographer who works in television isn't so much of a like, oh yeah, you're coming from, you know, small time work, because TV shows today look as good, if not better, than most movies. So I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue. But you know what? James Gunn also continued to answer a few other questions. Let's just kind of quick hit our way through the last few of these. I thought these were slightly more funny, as it were. Because somebody who's clearly not well aware of what DC's got on the horizon for 2027 was saying, dude, you're only getting one 2027 movie, Man of Tomorrow, and nothing else? And James Gunn was like, the Batman 2, bro? So clearly this person did not know that the Batman Part 2 is coming out in 2027. So there we go. And then somebody was asking, my wife is pregnant with our first baby. We aren't finding out the gender until they're born. The baby is due this week, that the week Supergirl is being released. And if it's a girl, we're going to name her Kara. What should we name him if he's a boy? James Gunn's bright idea for some baby advice was Crypto the Person. John, what about you? If you had a son, would you name him
agree with
Crypto?
Luigi. They should be named Taserface. Taserface.
Taserface. What was it? It's metaphorical.
It's metaphorical.
Taserface. That joke annoyed me the first time I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And then it's after that, it was just like, okay, I get it. Now I understand James Gunn's brand of humor, and it is funny. Anyway. Okay. And last but not least, after all of that talking and answering questions on social media, James Gunn was like, all right, I'm tapping out. I'm going to go back and work on some storyboards. So yeah, it was like nice chatting with everybody, back to storyboarding. And we assume the storyboarding he's talking about is from Anna Tomorrow. So clearly he's still working on that. He's building up more and more stacks of those storyboards. Then they got shipped out to his art department and camera department, and they keep building the sets that he's got to work on. So yeah, James Gunn. That's a big Slate update. A quick TLDR, if you guys missed out on all the updates. As far as Batman goes, the rumors of Batman and Wonder Woman being cast, completely false. The auditions have not been happening. And we're not going to see either of those characters in the movie or be mentioned in the movie. That's what James Gunn said. And then also he said, look, they're still trying to figure out the Batman script. There is no set timeline on when we're going to get an update, because he just doesn't know when the script will be ready. And at the very least, we shouldn't expect the Batman Brave and the Bold movie in 2027, because there's already the Batman 2 coming out. So the earliest we will see is 2028. The assumption would be, anytime after 2028 could also work. Then he also mentioned that while they are casting a female character in Man of Tomorrow, he didn't say who, but there is speculation and reporting it could be Maxima, which is a character that we have seen in like the animated Superman series before. So we'll see if that ends up being true, or it could just be a non-powered, non-meta-human character. As far as other updates go regarding the rest of the slate, James Gunn did mention that there's a bunch of projects that are being worked on. In fact, a few of them have already been greenlit, and we just don't know about them. And I think on tomorrow's show we can go through a list of those, and we'll talk about what's currently officially greenlit and maybe what's missing in action. Dynamic Duo, he said, is not part of the DCU, and it's coming along really well. Clayface is still on track, but he has yet to see the first cut of the movie. And by our calculation, based on what James Gunn said, he's probably not going to see the first cut of Clayface until probably mid-February, early February. And then from there, we can, maybe count on getting a trailer a few months after that. And yeah, he was not aware of the fact that, Grant Gustin dyed his hair blonde, and it doesn't have anything to do with, him coming back or not coming back for The Flash. So there you go. Those are all the updates. I don't think I missed anything. I think his baby name advice was probably the best bit. Whether it's Crypto the Person or Taserface, I think those are perfectly valid baby names. So, and on that note, I think we have reached the end of the show, John. Lots of James Gunn updates. But anytime he does one of these Q&As, I feel like he dishes out more stuff than he does on a Q&A session at an actual Comic-Con. So it was worth talking about it. Thank you guys for sticking around. If you have stuck around till the end, you guys are the most devoted parts of this community, and we appreciate you. So hit that like button. And of course, if you aren't subscribed already, hit subscribe. We're here, Monday, Tuesday. Currently, we're not live on Wednesdays and Thursdays up until March, because January, February, we want to, kind of pull back a little bit, give ourselves a bit of a break. But that doesn't mean, you can't enjoy the show when we are live. And we will be live tomorrow on Tuesday. We got DCU Daily, then we got Tier List Tuesday. Currently, the the poll, I believe Avengers Doomsday teasers is leading the way. So that will be what the topic of Tier List Tuesday tomorrow. But that could still change. You guys can go vote for it in the community post section. And then, of course, hit the notification bell if you have already subscribed. That way you know when we go live with those shows. Monday, Tuesday, and then Friday. So tomorrow we'll put up the poll for Fancast Friday. If you have any comments, if you have your Mount Rushmore ideas for superhero movies, let us know in the comments down below, and we'll bring those in next Monday. John, it was another long show, but Mondays are full of news, and we got through it all. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
Fuck Tom King.
Oh, I think we do that at the end, at the very, very end.
Well, yeah.
But hey, check out John's stuff on the Geek Informant and the Cool Kids Movie Reviews channel on YouTube.
This week we're doing Bone Temple. Hell yeah.
Bone Temple. And we actually have a Bone Temple review from John on here from Friday's show. Go check that out. And then I'm sure we'll be back with more reviews later in the week. Liz is going to be back later in the week. Until then, as we usually are at the beginning, we are at the end. And that is, of course, #blessed. We'll see you tomorrow on DCU Daily.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see.
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts. Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in a stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all in the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Hunka hunka.
Fuck Jeff Snyder. Fuck Tom King. There we go.